Hello everyone, this is your friend Naruto Nexus 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto the Ultimate Sakura and Sasuke Romance in Her Experience Part 3. They'd been doing the D-rank missions for the 2 weeks since they'd gotten back from the Land of Waves, and somehow Naruto and Sasuke's teamwork had gotten worse than it was when they first started doing missions. To make matters worse, it appeared her words had no effect on them this time around. They were both too antsy, fed up with D ranks, now that they'd had a taste of a real challenging mission. They'd grown so competitive that not even her logic could rein in their rivalry. Sakura, on the other hand, was growing more and more annoyed because their lack of teamwork was slowing them down again. The Land of Waves mission had only paid them as AC rank, which wasn't much. She hadn't made any money during the 2 weeks they were away. They weren't completing many missions a day, and she was feeling the financial pressure. At least her mother was alright. She hadn't gotten significantly worse while Sakura was away. She'd been so happy to see her, she hadn't realized just how much she'd missed her mom those past 2 weeks. It had been kind of fun when she got back, staying up with her mother to recount everything about the mission. Her mother had laughed at Naruto's antics, smiled as she told about Agaya, frowned in concern about her encounters with Zabuza, and mercilessly teased her over Sasuke. It felt so good to be there with her mother. She felt listened to, cared for, and loved. It reminded her why she had to work so hard to try and cure her mother. She couldn't lose her. Sakura was running late, as per usual. She'd just finished selling her hair rinse to a beauty shop. She'd had to bargain a lot since it was a new product for them and they didn't trust her yet, and she'd made far less than she hoped. She just prayed that her team actually managed to get through more than 1D rank today. She ran, rounding a corner to get to the street their sensei told them to meet at for today's mission. Naruto and Sasuke were already there, glaring at each other. When Naruto caught sight of her, he turned away from the raven-haired boy, waving at her excitedly. "Good morning, Sakura-chan," he called excitedly, blushing as she drew nearer. Sasuke's eye twitched at the moron's reddening cheeks. "Morning. Sorry I'm late I was," she trailed off when she noted that neither one was listening. Their glaring match had renewed with new intensity. "This again? Seriously? What's with them? I hope Sensei shows up soon. I don't know how much more of this I can take." He didn't. It took another 3 hours for him to show up. "Good morning, everyone. I'm afraid I got lost on the road of life." "Liar. You always lay it on too thick, Sensei." "Hey Kakashi Sensei. Any hot new missions for Squad 7? We've had nothing but lame D ranks." "Boring," Naruto yelled, practically burning with energy. "We want action. A challenge. Something where I could use my skill. Like this, and this, and. Oh really? Yeah, I think I see where you're going with this." Kakashi sighed exasperatedly. This kid was seriously impatient. They'd only gotten back from the Land of Waves 2 weeks ago, and he already wanted to take on another mission that could easily get him killed. He could tell Sasuke wanted one too. The hunger for challenge shined in both their eyes. The only team member it seemed absent from was Sakura. The day after they got back, she'd fallen into the same preoccupied, semi-present, repressed vibe she'd given off before. He'd hoped the Land of Waves mission had broken that, but it seemed he was wrong. She didn't seem to care what the missions they were given were, she just grew increasingly frustrated by their slow rate of success, courtesy of Naruto and Sasuke's ever-growing rivalry. She still offered ideas and analysis, but the two seemed less willing to listen, more caught up in beating the other than accomplishing the group goal. He saw her growing annoyance. She even tried voicing it a few times, but it made no difference, and when she saw that, she'd started repressing it again. How'd his team manage to backslide this much? "Well, for today, you're just going to have to use those skills on gardening," he replied smoothly. "Aw man," Naruto whined, before casting a glare towards Sasuke. Every time they went on a mission, Sasuke somehow ended up showing him up and saving him. But not today, he determined. Today was gonna be the day he'd save Sasuke and make him look bad for a change. Naruto was so caught up in this fantasy, he didn't notice his team had started walking away. Hey, Naruto, hurry up. We're heading out on our mission. Yes, sir. Naruto called with annoyance-tinged enthusiasm. That is so not the energy to have going into a gardening mission. Would you just chill? Exclamation mark quote. Sakura demanded in a cursory attempt to stop him from going overboard on this mission, which she knew he would anyways, and likely end up screwing everything up. They each divided up responsibilities. Sasuke would build the fence. Naruto immediately volunteered for tree trimming, a recipe for disaster in Sakura's opinion, which left her with de-weeding and planting. Trouble started about an hour and a half into the work. Sakura was pulling up dandelions, most of which she saved for their many medicinal properties, when she heard a loud crash. Naruto, who'd been employing his chakra control to climb and prune the tree, had stupidly cut a branch while he'd been positioned on the severed side. Surprised by the fact that he was suddenly falling, he failed to catch himself or control his drop, crashing into and breaking the portion of fence Sasuke had just built. Nice going, idiot, Sasuke yelled. Now I have to all over again. Quote. Sakura jumped up and hurried over to check on Naruto. She pulled a few splinters out of his arm and back, missing the way Sasuke's eyes narrowed at her actions. She pulled out her trusted ointment and began applying it to Naruto's cuts and bruises. She was running low, and Naruto had already used up his own jar. She added making another batch to her ever-growing mental checklist of shit she needed to do. Pay attention to what you're doing next time, damn it. She growled, frustration seeping into her tone. She took a deep breath, staring down at the ruined wood of the fence. When she turned to Sasuke, her tone was notably softer, though there were still hints of frustration in it. Maybe start on the other side, away from where he's working, she suggested. His magnetic eyes pulled away from her, back to glaring at Naruto. I'll work where I want. The dead last should just do better. Quote. What did you say, bastard? Naruto yelled, stepping closer, fully ready to punch his raven-haired teammate. Enough, Sakura said, stepping between them with an aggravated sigh. Do either of you want to switch jobs? Quote. No. They both answered simultaneously, glaring around her at each other. Then let's just get back to work. She didn't move until they each turned back to their respective jobs. Once they both were working again, she went back to her own task. Disaster number 2 struck when Naruto carelessly knocked into a hornet's nest, which shattered and swarmed him. In his attempt to get away from them, he inadvertently led them to Sasuke, who barely jumped away in time, before he began firing shuriken at them. Sakura watched in astonishment from afar. Are you shitting me? Why does that doofus always have to complicate things? She was about to go try to help, when she felt Kakashi's hand on her shoulder. Can I have a word? Quote. Sure, but shouldn't I? She looked back towards her team. Naruto, for some unknown reason, had thought shadow clones might help in this situation, though all they did was add to the chaos. Let them handle it. They said they were bored anyways. Alright, what is it, sensei? She followed him out of the boy's view, not that it mattered, since they were distracted by the hornet problem. Here, he said, handing her an envelope. What's this? Your payment. Payment. For the Land of Waves mission. Sakura blinked in confusion. But sensei, we already got paid for that. You got paid for AC rank, but it was more of an A rank. That's the rest you're owed. Sakura's eyes widened as she counted the cash in the envelope. I've never held this much money before. But, how? Konoha only filed the mission as C rank. Where'd all this come from? She stared uncomprehendingly at the money in her hands. Well, Kakashi said, scratching the side of his head embarrassedly, I've been a Konoha Jonin for some time now, and have gone on more than a few A-rank missions. Wait, this is your sensei? I can't take this. Relax. Like I said, I've gone on more than a few A-ranks. This is nothing. But, you completed a mission and weren't paid just compensation for your work. I'm just writing that mistake. My work. I didn't even do anything. Sasuke-kun and Naruto did all the real work. I don't think I deserve this, sensei. I didn't really do anything. Kakashi studied her downcast eyes. It was the same look she'd had when she had to take a break during their tree climbing training while Sasuke and Naruto kept going. More than any of us, you carried out the mission to guard the bridge builder. You were guarding him long before any of us joined you, and you kept close and guarded him while we were distracted with our own battles. Of course you deserve it. Are you paying Sasuke-kun and Naruto too? Quote. Kakashi considered lying to her, but figured it wouldn't do any good. She was too smart. She'd either put it together then and there, or figure it out later. Either way, she'd feel worse about than she did now. No. Why not? Because it doesn't matter to them. They don't need or depend on it. For them, missions are solely about experience and growth. They've already gotten everything they wanted from that mission. Quote. Sakura pursed her lips as she looked down at the money again. She knew what this was. This was charity, but he'd found the perfect plausible reason for her to latch on to and accept. And as much as she hated it, she really did need it. This is enough to get mom treated by a real doctor. Hope ignited in her core, despite being unable to shake the slightly guilty feeling that she didn't deserve this money. Who cares? We can take care of mom now. Quote. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei. She said, with a brilliant smile and deep bow. She returned to her work feeling lighter than she had since first arriving home. She walked through the streets supporting a very stung and bruised Naruto. Sasuke walked coolly a little behind them, glaring at the blonde's arm slung around her shoulder. Kakashi brought up the rear. You'd have been fine if you hadn't overdone it, you know. She chided lightly. All her earlier frustration had been forgotten in light of the money now tucked in her pouch. Naruto just sighed in response. You're such a nuisance. That does it. Bastard. Oh, would you please give it a rest already? Exclamation mark quote. Sakura growled, her repressed anger rearing its head. Kakashi just looked between the two in exasperation. Lately, your teamwork has been almost non-existent. You tell him. You're always messing up our teamwork, bastard. Quote. He was talking to you, loser. If you're so sick of being in my debt, why don't you get better than me? He challenged with a cold glare. I don't know how they managed it, but they're on even worse terms now than they were before. Sasuke bit at his nail in frustration. He hated this. There were guys out there who could challenge him, but he was stuck on these nothing assignments with this twerp. Kakashi studied Sasuke from behind his book. The boy was so similar to how he used to be, it was a little frightening. His drive for challenge and being the best, while admirable, was making him stir-crazy and short-tempered with all the D ranks. He and Naruto's growing animosity towards each other, and their lack of teamwork, was concerning. Though, Kakashi had a feeling that if presented with true challenge, the two would be able to pull off the same level of incredible teamwork they had while facing Zabuza and Haku. A hawk circling the sky above him caught his attention. He knew that meant the Hokage was summoning him, and he had a good idea of what it was about. His eyes fell on his students. Were they ready? Naruto and Sasuke were. Definitely. But what about Sakura? Well, they had to go in teams for a reason. What Sakura lacked in strength and skill, she made up for in intelligence, analysis, and spirit. If they could get their teamwork back in working order, they'd be able to handle it. Okay. That's it. We'll call it a day right now. I've got to go hand in my report on today's mission. Oh, bye then, Kakashi-sensei. Sakura said with a bow and bright smile. Kakashi gave a lazy wave before poofing away. Time to go get mom treated. Eek. Hell yeah. We're finally gonna fix mom and everything'll be okay. She turned in excitement, ready to rush home, but Naruto's voice stopped her. Hey Sakura-chan. I was wondering if you wanted to work on our teamwork and train together, just the two of us. His cheeks tinting red and a stupid smile painted across his face. Sasuke froze. Sorry Naruto, I can't. There's something I have to take care of. Sasuke stiffened. He felt overwhelmingly annoyed for so many contradicting reasons it was dizzying. He was pissed at the blonde for trying to use training as an excuse for a date with Sakura. And he'd asked her out in front of him. Was he stupid? That kind of thing should be kept private. Besides, they shouldn't date at all. They were teammates who saw each other daily and had to work together. If things soured, like they obviously would because Naruto was clearly not a good match for Sakura, it would make working as a team more difficult and uncomfortable. Thank God she turned him down. But that for some reason pissed him off also. She was in no position to be turning down training. She needed it badly. She was smart. No one would argue that. But she was useless in a physical fight. When he'd been fighting Haku, and heard her scream, he'd felt nothing less than panic. He knew she couldn't hold her own against the likes of either of their opponents. Hell, she probably couldn't even hold her own against Naruto. She needed to get stronger. It would be distracting if he always had to worry about her safety while battling. Yet she never made time to train. Even now, when they'd been released fairly early from their missions, she still had something else to do. Who knew when they were next sent on a mission with a powerful enemy? At any moment they might be faced with strong opponents, and as she was now, an enemy wouldn't even have to be particularly strong to kill Sakura. Screw whether Naruto was asking her on a date or not, she needed a training session. You're as bad as Naruto. Both his teammates' eyes shot to him. Huh, why are you wasting your time when you should be practicing? Wasting my time. Shanaro. What does he know? Nothing. 'Cause I haven't told him anything. Even his skills are better than yours. Her previously good mood suddenly evaporated. Every word he spoke felt like a kunai to the chest, 'cause he wasn't wrong. She knew it too. He was speaking her insecurities into the light of day for all to clearly see. I told you before that you needed to make time to train, but you haven't. Your analysis isn't enough anymore. As you are now, you're just dead weight getting in our way. His tone was a sharpened knife's edge. He knew he was being unnecessarily harsh, but he was so annoyed and frustrated that he hadn't been able to censor his words. Sakura felt cracks running up her entire being. She was about to shatter. Dead weight. Useless. I'm just in the way. I'm just in his way. She felt like she couldn't breathe. Her throat was tightening. What the hell, bastard? Naruto shouted, glaring heatedly at Sasuke, whose gaze didn't leave Sakura. Naruto looked back at the sound of her small voice in concern. Oh my god. Sasuke-kun. Came a familiar shrill voice that made both her male teammates look towards the newcomer. Oh, you've got to be shitting me. Why that bitch? Watanabe Amy launched herself at Sasuke, wrapping her arms around his neck. The second she heard the voice of her biggest bully, Sakura's face fell into her well-practiced mask of stony indifference. There was no way in hell she was going to let Amy see her fall apart in front of her teammates. Amy ignored Sasuke's attempts to push her off of him, her eyes sliding across Naruto and narrowing on Sakura. So the walking jinx is here. I can't believe they let someone as incompetent as you become a ninja. Quote. Naruto and Sasuke's eyes both shot to Sakura in concern, though it was masked on Sasuke's part. Remind me again, Amy. What team are you on? Squad 2. Right. How's it going? I haven't heard anything about you guys since graduation. Sakura asked in a polite but detached voice. She hadn't used it since graduating the academy. Ami's eyes narrowed into a glare, as she released Sasuke and turned to face Sakura fully. Squad 2 hadn't passed the post-graduation survival exam and had been sent back. We were sent back to the academy, another sign of their clearly flawed judgment. I'd be far more useful on this team than you. Even your ninja tools are barely usable. I'd rather be on a team with that lazy-ass Shikamaru, or even Naruto, than be stuck with someone as pathetic as you. Quote. Both Sasuke and Naruto glared at Amy, who didn't take any notice. Sasuke was barely resisting the urge to pound the girl next to him into the ground. Sure, Sasuke had just told his teammate that she was weak, but she wasn't completely useless. And he was her teammate. He'd been working closely with her for months now. He had the right to make those kinds of observations. But this bitch didn't know anything about her. She had no right to say those things and degrade her. It wasn't even like they were on the same level. She was still in the academy while Sakura was a full-fledged ninja who survived what should have been an A-rank mission. Who was this bitch to say anything about his teammate? He wasn't going to say anything though. This was Sakura's fight. Getting involved might make her feel truly weak. This wasn't the kind of battle she needed protecting from. She was far stronger than this girl, mentally and emotionally, at least. This is nothing new, this is the same crap she's always said to me, but it hurt more than usual. She was already raw from what Sasuke had said, and Amy was pouring salt on the wound. Shanaru, I don't care how much it hurts. There's no way I'm giving that bitch the satisfaction. Sakura was a master of repressing her own pain, after all. Naruto didn't have the same thought process as Sasuke. No one was allowed to shit-talk any of his teammates. Especially not Sakura-chan, who cared and looked out for him in a way very few did. Hey, how lucky for you then, that you're not stuck on a team with me. In fact, you'll probably never have to worry about that, given that you already failed to become a full-fledged shinobi once. Sakura said, her face betraying none of her emotions, her tone still polite detachment. Amy looked livid. At least I'll never be responsible for my teammates' deaths on the field. The violet-haired girl spat furiously. Ami's uncle had been one of Sakura's father's teammates. Amy never met her uncle. If she had, she didn't remember. But she heard the stories from her family. She knew who was ultimately responsible for his death. Sakura swallowed hard, thankfully unnoticed by anyone. Why does everyone say that? It's not like he was a traitor. He died too. And I'm not him. It was hard, but she still kept her mask of indifference. For the most part, unnoticed by anyone but Sasuke, Sakura's pale knuckles were growing whiter, as her fists tightened at her sides. She was about to respond, when a new voice stopped her short. Well, if it isn't Naruto, came a lazy drawl from behind Amy and Sasuke. Sasuke-kun. Oh no, my luck can't be that bad, can it? Team 10 made their way towards the group. Long pale blonde hair trailed beautifully behind her as Ino latched herself onto Sasuke, who immediately growled at her to let go. She did when her eyes fell on Sakura. Oh, you're here too, she said stiffly, glaring coolly at Sakura, who felt her grip on her composure almost slip. If there was one person who had any right to hate her, it was Ino. What is this? Shit pile on Sakura Day. Ino, she greeted, her detached tone carrying detectable strain. Ino-chan, it's been so long, Amy greeted with shrill sweetness, throwing her arms around the blonde girl. Oh, hi, Amy. Ino returned uncomfortably, casting a quick glance at Sakura who was watching blankly. She knew better though. She'd been Sakura's best friend for 5 years, she knew when something was bothering her. We have to go shopping. I saw the cutest top at the store, it would look so good on you. It's a little expensive, but that shouldn't be a problem. Amy continued loudly. That bitch is doing this on purpose. Quote, are you surprised? Ino cast another quick, uncomfortable, glance at Sakura before Amy was drawing her into conversation, demanding her attention. Shikamaru and Choji, bored with the female's talk of clothes, started conversing with Naruto, who despite his anger at Amy, was very easily distracted and drawn into catching the two boys up on their missions. Sasuke, who was in close proximity, was pulled into the conversation as well, though unwillingly, still very much pissed at the purple-haired girl, and not sufficiently distracted by the talk. Sakura watched the groups, a distance away and unincluded. On Ino and Ami's part it was purposeful, and on Shikamaru and Choji's part, it just hadn't crossed their mind that Sakura might want to be included in mission talk over clothing and gossip. Naruto got too enwrapped in conversation to notice, and Sasuke wasn't the type to bring others into a group or be in a group himself, he'd been dragged in unwillingly after all. There was a sense of numbness to it for Sakura. It was familiar. This was what school had been like for her. Once she'd pushed Ino away, it was a good time to walk away, now that everyone's attention was off her. None of that matters anyways. I have enough money for mom's treatment now. That's the only thing that's important, she kept repeating in her head, hoping that would make it feel true. She turned her back on her teammates and former classmates, and walked away. Unaware of Ino's and Sasuke's concerned gazes following her as she rounded the corner. I'm home, Mom, Sakura greeted, managing to rekindle some of her earlier deflated excitement. Welcome home, Sakura-chan. Mebuki greeted with a smile, studying her daughter closely. The day she'd gotten home from her mission had been a great one. They'd stayed up all night talking about her mission in detail. Sakura had seemed lighter than she had since she was 8. There'd been so much excitement in her voice as she recounted how she'd been the best at her tree climbing training. So much frustrated humor as she recounted Naruto's antics. She was so flustered as she described all of her interactions with Sasuke, she'd sounded her age, unburdened by things she should have never had to carry to begin with. It hadn't lasted long. The next day, Sakura's worries were back in place, aging her words and overloading her time. Mebuki hated it. She hated how much she'd forced Sakura to carry because of her illness. Her beautiful, brilliant, strong daughter had taken everything in stride, but she knew it all took a toll on Sakura. The only thing Mebuki could do was try and be there for her daughter, and so she'd become an expert at reading all the things Sakura tried to keep hidden. And right now, something was wrong. There was an excited glint in her eye and a smile on her lips, but her muscles were too tense. Mom, Sakura said, her voice excited, and she gracefully dropped down in front of her. Look at this. She pulled out an envelope from the pouch at her side and handed it to her mother. Mebuki's eyes widened. Sakura, where did you get this? She hadn't stolen it, had she? She knew the girl had shoplifted on a few occasions. And while she didn't approve, she also trusted her daughter never did anything bad without absolute necessity, but she'd never outright stolen money before. It's the rest of my payment from my Land of Waves mission. Quote, the rest. It was an A-rank mission, but we were only paid for it as AC rank. This is the rest, she said with an excited smile. Her mother looked down at the money with wide eyes. It was more than they'd had in a long while. We can afford to take you to the hospital with this. Just wait one sec, I'll take off my weapons and then we can go. Sakura-chan, her eyes following her daughter as she moved about the small apartment. Let's not use this for my treatment. Sakura jerked to a halt, her mind slapped blank by the words. Why not? What's mom thinking? She hasn't lost it, has she? Mebuki took a deep breath, knowing this was going to be a long conversation. Sakura-chan, you've had to work so hard all this time and worry about money, let's just use this to cover our expenses for now. That way you can focus on training. Sakura stiffened. Not her too, my own mother thinks I'm weak. Mom, she said, working hard to keep her voice measured. You do know why I'm working so hard, right? It's to cure you. I know. But if you're given another dangerous mission, I'll be fine for now. We should use this so you can train more. Quote. Sakura felt the cracks that formed in her earlier deepen and spread through her. Mom, if you're better, then I'll be able to focus more on my training, so let's get you taken care of now. It was a struggle for her to even get the words out. You're a ninja, Sakura. You might get sent on another mission before then. You should take this time now while you have it. Sakura shattered. Tears she'd hidden from Mebuki for years burned her eyes and flooded over onto her cheeks. You may not have the time later. Sakura yelled, which was truly startling cause she never raised her voice to her mother. I'm not a doctor, damn it. I don't know what you have or how to fix it. We need to get you treated before it gets worse. Quote. And what if the treatment isn't enough? Whatever I have won't be cured in a day. It'll be ongoing, and it's going to cost more than this. So I'll make enough so you can keep getting treated. But we should at least get a diagnosis. You'll never be a real ninja if you keep this up. Use this time to give yourself a break, damn it. Do you really want to keep slaving like this? You think I want this? You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to be building fences at 4 a.m. and selling homemade ointment and barely eating an S? Leaping on the floor. You think I want to be worried about if we have enough for rent and taxes? You think I want to spend every second of my free time reading about cancers or bacterial versus viral infections? Exclamation mark quote. A note of hysteria crept into her voice. No, I don't want any of this. It's stressful and suffocating and I hate it. I hate all of it. But you can't do it and Dad's dead, so who the hell else will? I don't want to spend my time like this. I'm putting myself through all this bullshit for you. I get it. It's all my fault and I'm a burden. That's why I'm telling you to do something for yourself for once in your life. Mebuki snapped. Sakura's words hurt her deeply. She'd caused her daughter so much pain, and it was distressing to see her this upset. She wasn't trying to be sarcastic, snarky, or passive-aggressive when she said it was all her fault. It was. She'd always known it and always felt sorry to Sakura for it. And if you get worse or die, that'll be on me, 'cause I was selfish and negligent and didn't get you help when I had the means. Damn it, Sakura. You're 12, not 30. You shouldn't have the means for this. That phrase isn't meant for children. And you can't be negligent of anything. You're a minor. You're my responsibility and you're sick. I am not your responsibility. I am your mother. You are my responsibility and I order you to use this money to give yourself time to train. Quote. The two females glared at each other, breathing hard. My own mother thinks I'm too weak, she murmured brokenly, tears streaming down her face. The apartment felt smaller than usual, closing in on her. She needed to get out of there. She turned and fled the apartment, heading blindly for the forest, unsure where else to go. Several hours later, Sakura stood on top of a pond. She was dripping wet up to her chest from previous failed attempts, but she had gotten to standing on the still pond, and now she was working on when move. Ment was introduced to the water. Since everyone kept bugging her about training, it was what she'd ultimately did. She needed to move anyways. Dancing always calmed her mind. And she had danced for a while, on the ground, up trees, then she'd remembered what Kakashi said about standing on water and had decided to give it a shot. It was meditative. It gave her something to control when everything had fallen apart. She was horrified with herself. She couldn't believe what she'd said to her mother. The expression on her face had been, she'd been so hurt. It had always been her and her mother versus the world. But in that moment it had felt like the world and her mom versus her, and she'd lost it. It nauseated her to think about. Focus. She carefully focused on letting her chakra flow out, matching the surface of the pond. She picked up a few stones and threw it into the water, creating strong ripples. Let your chakra match the water fluctuation, let it wave with the water. She felt the water shift under her feet and focused on allowing her chakra to do the same. When she successfully kept herself up on top of the rippling water, she took a tentative step forward. Still satisfied she wasn't sinking, she tentatively rose up onto her toes and lifted a bent leg back behind her. She balanced there, throwing more stones into the water, and shifting her chakra to match the ripple while maintaining her balance in the pose. It worked. She was already feeling tired. To be fair, she'd been at this for a while and it required more chakra than tree climbing did, so she decided to go F. Or broke and try dancing and changing her contact points. She kicked her back leg around to cause herself to spin. It felt like being on ice, with little to no friction between her feet and the water, making her spin fast. Normally she focused on one point for as long as possible, whipping her head around at the last second to refine the point. It helped her to maintain her balance and keep from getting dizzy. But this time, she was spinning too fast to do that. She'd probably snap her neck if she tried. Instead, she focused inside herself to maintain her center. After several rotations, she stepped back out of the spin, kicking her right leg back high above her head. Lowering her leg, she took a small skip forward, cartwheeling over the water and landing cleanly. She was tired and her chakra was running low. Her feet sunk a little lower into the water, though she still remained mostly above the surface. Tired and having successfully danced and switched her chakra points above the water's surface, Sakura walked to the shore of the pond and collapsed. She was tired and cold. It was late. Dark had fallen long ago, and the late March air was chilly. Sakura was soaked up to the chest from failed previous attempts at standing on the water. She was freezing and tired and knew she should go home. But she didn't want to. She was too ashamed to face her mother after everything she said. She also didn't agree with her. She still thought they should use the money to get her mother treated now. Mom made a good point about treatment taking a while and costing more than that, but still. She lay there shivering for a long time, staring up at the moon. The occasional chilly breeze ghosting over her skin. It was numbly freeing, laying there in the open, staring at the beautiful night sky, feeling the cold fresh air surround her. So different from how she normally felt. Trapped in a tiny box of an apartment, with barely any room to move or breath, being suffocated by anxieties and responsibilities. She is my responsibility. No matter what she says. She's family, and if she can't take care of herself, of course it's my responsibility to take care of her. No matter how young I am. Lying there, freezing and numb and free may have been beautiful, but it was also lonely and a little heartbreaking. At a certain point, she could no longer ignore the small whisper telling her to go home. She pushed her cold damp body off the ground and took her time meandering home. I'm home, she murmured quietly, still ashamed of her earlier outburst. But when she was met with no answer at all, she grew concerned. Mom. She switched on the light to see that her mom wasn't in bed, but was lying on the kitchen floor. Shit. She was by her mom's side in an instant. Mom. Mebuki's face was flushed, her breathing a little labored, and her forehead sweaty. Sakura checked her pulse and was relieved to feel that while slightly fast for someone unconscious, her blood pressure was nothing too worrying. She knew she was too physically cold to get an accurate read on her mother's temperature, so she rushed to the closet and retrieved their thermometer. 38.8 degrees Celsius. That was bad. She moved her mom back to the futon and filled a tub with lukewarm water, giving her mother a sponge bath. She then put her in lighter weight pajamas and switched her blanket for a less heavy one. Sakura brewed her mother a cup of yarrow tea, which she cooled to barely above room temperature before helping her drink, and dug out a fever reducer she'd made a little while ago. Mom, she said, shaking her shoulder gently. Mom, did you eat? Her mother's eyes cracked open. Did you eat, Mom? Yes. Okay. Here. Drink this. One shot. It's gross. What are you talking about? It's sake. Oh, okay. Her mother murmured, sitting up with Sakura's help and downing the medicine. Her face scrunched in disgust. Liar. Sakura handed her the yarrow tea, which she took 2 gulps of before handing the drink back to her daughter. She blinked hazily at her daughter's worried face. I'm fine. Liar. The younger girl threw back, with no venom in it. Her mother flopped back onto the futon and closed her eyes. I'm sorry, Sakura murmured quietly. This was part of the reason she always choked down her frustration. She was worried she'd fight with Mebuki, say something she'd end up regretting and never get the chance to apologize. She had no doubt her mother's fever spiked because of the stress of their fight. "'Bout damn time you threw a tantrum," Mebuki's words came out slow and slurred. "Long overdue for one, every other kid does but you haven't since you were 3, weirdo." Sakura cracked a small sad smile. Even feverish and barely conscious Mebuki still kept her sense of humor. Although, if Mebuki had been more lucid, she'd have pointed out that it wasn't even a proper tantrum. Tantrums were supposed to be stupid and unimportant expressions of petty feelings. Nothing about their fight and Sakura's breakdown had been stupid, unimportant, or petty. You had a bad day, didn't you, Sakura-chan? Sakura's eyes softened. Her mother really was the best. Yeah, she said, swallowing hard. Yeah, Mom, it was rough. Wanna tell me about it? Mebuki slurred. Later. You need to rest, she answered, moving some blonde hair out of her mother's face. Her fingers brushed against Mebuki's fevered skin. The older woman frowned. You're cold. Go change. And, blanket, wear it, she murmured, fading into unconsciousness. Sakura changed, flung a heavy blanket around her shoulders, and made herself a cup of hot tea, before settling next to her mother to monitor her the rest of the night and periodically change the cloth she laid on her forehead. The next morning, Naruto and Sasuke leaned against the red bridge Team 7 normally met at. Both were thinking about the strange encounter they'd had with those sand ninja after Team 10 had left them yesterday. They said they were here for the Chunin exams, and that Gaara kid, he was strong. These Chunin exams sounded like the perfect challenge they'd both been looking for. As the hours ticked by, a new thought occurred to Sasuke. Where was Sakura? She was almost always late, but not usually this late. Was she still upset about yesterday? That couldn't be it. Sakura was always good at compartmentalizing. Even if she was still upset, it wouldn't stop her from her duty, right? Things had spun out of control yesterday. While knowing that his words were maybe a little too harsh, he stood by them. But then that bitch had shown up. She had been the one to bully Sakura the most at school, though he never paid attention at that time to what the subject of the bullying had been. What was all this walking jinx stuff even about? And she'd said something similar to that lady Naruto bumped into months before. Something about causing her teammates to die. What was that? Months ago, when he'd forced Sakura into exploding, she'd said her passivity was a defense. He hadn't understood until he saw her in action yesterday. Amy had been the one to get riled up. Amy had been the one reduced to shrieking, while Sakura, on the other hand, looked completely cool and unbothered. A lie he knew, but Amy didn't. And her perceived inability to upset Sakura ultimately made her look far weaker than his teammate. At first it seemed like Sakura had won the battle, but then the Yamanaka girl showed up and everything changed. Sakura's composure cracked. There was some sort of tension between them, and Amy seemed to know about it. She'd latched onto Ino, and Sakura was clearly hurt by it. When he'd watched her walk silently away, unnoticed by most, it was the first time it occurred to him that Sakura might be more alone. He realized, but still, where was she? As more time passed, Naruto grew agitated as well. Hey bastard, where's Sakura? How should I know, loser? Why did it annoy him that he didn't have an answer to the question? If she's crying somewhere cause of that bullshit you said yesterday, I swear I'll pound your ass into the dust. Naruto growled fiercely. The thought of her crying because of him was upsetting. When Kakashi showed up and there was still no sign of Sakura, the boys grew alarmed. Morning guys. Kakashi greeted before looking down at the bridge. Why are there only two of you? Sensei. You don't know where Sakura is either. Naruto was now truly panicking. It wasn't like her to not show up. Maybe she's sick, Sasuke muttered. The idea making him feel uncomfortable, for some reason. Then we should check on her. Why? She's probably fine, Sasuke muttered, though a part of him actually agreed with Naruto. Because she's our teammate, you asshole. Naruto countered angrily. Kakashi watched the two of them argue while he debated. He needed to give all three of them the application forms for the Chunin exams. And he'd rather talk to them about it as a team, but Sakura had kept her financial situation on the down low, and checking on her meant revealing that, well, she'd have to tell them at some point, might as well be now. I even helped their teamwork. Alright, enough. Both of you, follow me. Where are we going? To Sakura's. Satisfied that he'd gotten his way and they were going to check on her, Naruto asked the other question he had. Hey sensei, what are these Chunin exam things? That's what I wanted to talk to you three about. I've recommended you all. I'll give you all the details when we check in on Sakura. It occurred to Sasuke that he'd never been to Sakura's house. He'd never been to Naruto's or Kakashi's either, but he'd walked by Naruto's on several occasions. The blonde always pointed it out when they'd go their separate ways at the end of the day. He didn't know where Kakashi's apartment was, but that was a little different. He was their captain, not Sasuke's peer. But he didn't even know the general direction of where Sakura's home was, and that was oddly troubling to him. They followed their sensei further and further from the center of Konoha until they reached a rundown apartment complex on the outskirts of the village. Naruto and Sasuke stared at it blankly. This was where Sakura lived. This couldn't be right. Did he have the wrong place? Kakashi led them to an apartment door on the third floor and knocked a few times. There was a shuffling sound and then the door swung open to reveal Sakura. Her eyes widened at the sight of the three of them, before the door slammed shut in their faces. Sasuke's perceptive eyes had picked up a woman lying on a futon before his vision had been blocked. Inside the apartment, Sakura stood at the door wide-eyed and face flaming. Shit. What are they doing here? We were supposed to meet up this morning. Her mom's fever, while lower, hadn't broken and Sakura hadn't felt comfortable leaving her. With everything that happened the day before, she completely forgot to meet her team. They must have come to check on me. Seriously, why is our luck so bad? Taking a deep breath, she pulled open the door again, revealing the three confused males who hadn't moved at all. Hi, it's not really a good time right now. Sakura-chan. A feminine voice came from behind her. Sakura whipped her head around to see her mother sitting up. Oh, sorry. Did I wake you? The woman was about to respond when she noticed the three males standing at the open door. Much to Sakura's horror, the woman seemed to bounce with excitement. Oh my god. You must be Sakura-chan's team. Come in. At least she seems to be feeling better. Why is our luck absolutely shitty? Exclamation mark quote. Sakura stepped awkwardly aside, not looking at any of her teammates as she retreated to the kitchen. Naruto, Sasuke and Kakashi shuffled into the small space, removing their shoes and placing them next to the door alongside Sakura's. Hers was the only pair there. Come, sit. Make yourselves comfortable, the woman on the futon said with a warm smile. Naruto and Sasuke knelt next to the futon, while Kakashi remained standing, leaning against the wall near what looked to be a curtained-off closet. Sasuke's eyes scanned the space briefly, though there wasn't much to take in. The only other room seemed to be the kitchen Sakura was tinkering around in. He assumed there was a bathroom somewhere, but he didn't see any additional doors or rooms. Where did Sakura sleep? I'm Haruno Mebuki, Sakura's mother. Mebuki greeted happily. Sakura-chan's told me so much about you all. I've been dying to meet you. In the kitchen, Sakura cringed at her mother's word choice. For someone in Sakura's situation, dying wasn't a word she could hear from her mother lightly. She focused on making everyone tea, finding avoiding this for as long as possible far more preferable to engaging in it. Nice to meet ya. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Believe it, Naruto said with a valiant smile, despite his confusion. I'm Sakura's sensei, Hitaki Kakashi. Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke said with a polite bow. That's all you're gonna say? Wow, you're boring. Shut up dead last. Sasuke growled, glaring back at Naruto. Both boys were startled out of it by Mebuki's laughter. Sakura-chan said you two were always fighting. The woman giggled. What else did Sakura-chan say about us? Naruto asked, deciding he liked Mebuki quite a lot. Well, she said you, Naruto-kun, were unpredictable and spazzy, and that you shout about becoming the Hokage so much you just might make it happen. Naruto beamed, ignoring the light insults. That was just how Sakura was anyways. And you Kakashi-san, just Kakashi's fine. He'd always been uncomfortable with honorifics. And you Kakashi, she said you're the most powerful ninja she's ever seen. Although she said your taste in literature is atrocious and that you should find something else to read while in public, Kaka's. Hai scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Oh dear lord. And Sasuke-kun, Sakura-chan talks about you the most. She says you're very strong, and caring, And very ha. Have some tea. Sakura all but growled, placing a tray of mugs on the floor between them and her mother, before retreating. To lean against the wall separating the kitchen from the main room. Mebuki chuckled at Sakura's flustered state, but switched gears easily enough. I'm sorry we don't have more to offer you. Mebuki said, as Sasuke and Naruto both politely took a mug. It's no problem. We dropped in rather unexpectedly. Kakashi returned. Yes, as happy as I am to finally meet you all, why have you dropped by? Well, we were worried when Sakura never showed up for our meeting. Quote. Mebuki twisted over her shoulder to look at Sakura. You had a meeting today. You should have gone. You weren't up yet. Mebuki's stern gaze softened as she looked at her daughter. She turned back to the boys filling up the apartment. I'm sorry. I'm afraid that's my fault. I came down with a bit of a fever and Sakura-chan had to look after me all night. I only just woke up when you got here. A bit. It was a bit more than a bit. Sasuke hadn't noticed it before, but he now saw that Mebuki was a damp rag in her hand. So it hadn't been Sakura who was sick, but her mother. Sasuke had the distinct feeling that there was more to it than that. Something Sakura had yelled at them while angry. She'd said that this team wasn't the only thing in her life and that she had other responsibilities. Oh no. Are you okay, Mebuki-obakan? Don't just call someone that without permission, Naruto. Sakura snapped. Mebuki chuckled. It's fine, Sakura-chan. I kinda like it. God knows, we could use more family. Sakura looked away uncomfortably. Sasuke noticed that there was only one family picture set up on a step stool in the corner. Sakura looked to be 3 or 4 at most. She was smiling brightly in the arms of a man with dusty pink hair, a more purplish gray than Sakura's soft petal pink coloring. He had Sakura held in one arm and the other wrapped around Mebuki, who was looking at her daughter with a gentle smile. There was a mug and a single stick of incense in front of it. He knew what that was. It was a memorial table. I'm completely fine, Naruto-kun. All better. Liar. Well, now that that's settled. I just wanted to tell you that I've recommended all 3 of you for the Chunin selection exam. You have to fill out applications. He said, passing a sheet of paper to each of his students. Kakashi-sensei, I love you. Naruto cheered, launching himself at his sensei in a violent hug. Get off, you're embarrassing me. Knock it off, Naruto. There isn't enough room for that here. As soon as the words left her mouth, her face flushed in embarrassment and she looked away. Alright, sorry Sakura-chan, Naruto muttered, dropping back onto the floor next to Mebuki's futon. Kakashi cleared his throat. If any of you don't wish to compete, the exam is entirely voluntary. The choice is yours. You needn't turn in those application forms unless you want to. If you do, report to room 301 at the school by 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. That's all I wanted to say. Well, if that's all taken care of, Sakura-chan, why don't you and your friends go pick up some groceries? There's something I need to speak with Kakashi about. Huh, but mom, I haven't checked. I'm fine, Sakura. Go on. You've been stuck in here for enough of the day as is. And I know this was on your to-do list anyways. Quote. Alright. Sakura disappeared into the kitchen to retrieve some money. The boys knew that they were supposed to vacate as well, and maneuvered around the tight space clumsily to get on their shoes. As Sasuke passed the curtained-off closet, he caught a glimpse of a small, full, box of paper cranes. The 2 boys tugged on their shoes. Bye, Mebuki-obakan. It was nice meeting you. It was nice meeting you too, Naruto. Come back whenever you want. Naruto gave the woman one last smile before walking out. Goodbye. Sasuke hesitated. He'd never called anyone outside of his family and familial title. But Mebuki's words kept ringing in his head. God knows, we could use more family. Oh, Obasan. Thank you for the tea. He said with a bow. Mebuki beamed. I've wanted to meet you for so long, Sasuke-kun. You come back any time you want. You're always welcome here. Quote. Sasuke nodded, feeling both grateful and a little uncomfortable by the warm open invitation. He walked out as well, Sakura following shortly after. The three just stood there for a second after the door swung shut, Sakura's back to them. Sakura-chan? Naruto asked unsurely. She let out a heavy sigh. Yeah, go ahead. I'll answer whatever you wanna ask. The three walked along the road slowly. Not many people lived this far from the village center. They'd only passed 2 other people so far. How often does your mother get fevers? Of course, Sasuke-kun's always so perceptive. She's almost always running a low-grade one. It spikes every so often, it's not too bad yet, but it is starting to happen more frequently. Quote, almost always. How long has she been sick? Since I was 8. It wasn't that bad at that point, but she got a lot worse when I was 10. She can't really go out anymore. If it's that bad, why isn't she in the hospital, Sakura-chan? Quote, do either of you know how the Konoha health care system works? Naruto answered with a prompt no and Sasuke shook his head. Because the nature of their job is so risky, shinobi have full access to free healthcare. The village covers all costs whether it be for injury or illness. But that's not how it is for civilians. Civilians get charged medical fees. Doctors' visits, tests, diagnosis, surgery, treatment, medicines, bed space, it all costs a lot of money. Quote, Sasuke thought back on the introduction she gave when they first became Team 7. All of her answers had been money-centered. Now he knew why. That's why you read so many medical books. Sasuke stated. Yeah, since I was 10, I've been doing my best to treat her myself. What's she have? I don't know, Naruto. Sakura shook her head sadly. I'm not a doctor. I don't have the skills, equipment, or knowledge to make a real diagnosis. I've just been doing my best to treat her symptoms as they pop up. For all I know, I could be making it worse. Her tone was strained. The cranes? Sasuke asked. Given everything she was trying to do and how hard she was working, it didn't seem like a route she would try to take. There are a lot of rituals and superstitions I'm not sure I believe. I don't know what use the gods have for 1,000 paper cranes, but apparently they grant you a wish if you fold that many as an offering to them. I'll try anything. Folding paper's kind of expensive though, and I needed to save normal paper for studying, so they're mostly made from cleaned off food wrappers. I don't have too many folded, they're pretty low on the priority list. Quote, they traveled in silence for a couple of minutes before Naruto asked another question. I'm not really sure how to put this nicely, so please don't hit me, Sakura-chan, but why are you so poor? I thought I was broke, but I don't even have it as bad as you. This is a shinobi village. It's harder for civilians to make a lot of money. My mom was working 2 jobs to put me through the academy, even while she was sick. She had to drop one when the illness got bad and the other when she got worse. So making money is up to me. I wasn't a ninja yet, so the only way to earn anything were side hustles and doing different chores for people. The apothecary, Sasuke realized. Sakura nodded. One among many side hustles. Happens to be one of my favorites though. But I could only earn so much that way. It was just barely enough to pay rent and feed us twice a day. Plus I always try and save a little for mom's medical treatment. She still wanted to use the money Kakashi gave her to get her mother treated immediately. But I don't get it. Why is it so hard for you? I've never had to pay rent and I get an allowance at the start of every month. How come you don't get that? Sasuke had a similar financial situation. I don't know who your parents were, Naruto, but they must have been at least Chunin level shinobi. To help incentivize ninja to move up the ranks, there's a clause in the shinobi contract. Since Chunin are sent on more dangerous, possibly life-threatening missions, too many were choosing not to adva NCE for fear of leaving their families unlooked after should something happen to them. So the village built into the shinobi contract that should a ninja reach Chunin rank or higher, and die in the line of duty, the village would provide for their dependents if there was no one else to do so. The village pays the rent on your apartment, Naruto, and sends you an allowance. Your parents must have been middle or higher ranking ninja who died in the line of duty. Naruto's eyes widened. He never knew that. He never had even the slightest hint of his parentage. Sasuke-kun's in a similar situation. Actually, he was better off than that. He'd inherited his entire clan's fortunes. Even if the Uchiha clan had not been as powerful and well off as it was, inheriting everything from everyone of our clan members was a lot for one person. But what about your father? He was a ninja, wasn't he? Dad was only a genin. Since genin aren't usually sent on life-threatening missions, that clause doesn't cover them. Quote, if your dad was only a genin, what happened to him? Naruto asked, a little unsure. He'd never been very good with tact and didn't want to say the wrong thing and make Sakura upset. He died on a mission. I don't really know the details. It was AC rank. There was some sort of unexpected ambush on the way back. My father's whole team died. Only their squad leader survived. I was really young, so I don't remember him very well. The team lapsed into another short bout of silence as they drew nearer to the center of the village. There were more people along this part of the road. Naruto's heart was bleeding for Sakura. He'd thought his situation was bad, it was certainly lonely and hard to bear, but Sakura's was stressful and painful, and she'd been carrying it alone for too long. For Sasuke, a lot of things were finally beginning to fall into place. He now had context for so much of Sakura's behavior. This was why she always tried to skip team dinners or when she would go, get the cheapest thing on the menu. This was why she'd been so frustrated by their slow mission progress initially, and probably was again. It meant less pay, which made her life harder. This was why Sakura often talked and acted like an adult. She'd been dealing with adult things like paying rent and supporting her family since she was 10. That maturation process probably really started when she was 8 and her mother first got sick. This was why she was so efficient at D ranks. She'd been doing odd jobs like those for years. This was what she'd really been complaining about the first time he'd ever spoken to her. It hadn't been about being scolded by her parents, it had been about the responsibility-less freedom Naruto flaunted that she envied, being saddled with so much. It explained at least partially why Ami's switch in tactics to talking about clothes shopping with Ino would bother her. He'd never noticed before, but Sakura's clothes were really worn. They were clean, but the colors were faded, and the fabric was thinning in certain places. She probably didn't have very many changes of outfits. This was why she was always late, having to take care of her mother, or do some quick grinding for cash. His stomach plummeted when he realized that this was why she never trained. It wasn't laziness, or lack of desire. She genuinely didn't have time. Where do you sleep, Sakura-chan? Naruto hadn't seen another futon. Where you were sitting, or on the kitchen windowsill. Wait, you mean, you don't have a bed? Quote, Sakura shook her head. I sleep on the floor next to mom. She used to do it actually, and I had the futon until I was 9. But when I realized her sickness was getting worse, I made her switch with me. It's fine though, I'm used to it. Besides, there's usually so much to do that I don't get a lot of sleep anyways. Why didn't you say anything? Sasuke demanded. Sakura stopped walking. A frustrated hand raked through her long silky pink hair. Was this also why she took such good care of it? To give others like Amy when less thing to shoot down. How could I? My mom's the best. I'm so lucky to have her, working 2 jobs while sick to put me through the academy just cause her kid decided she wanted to be a ninja when she was 2. Sakura felt the prickle of tears in her eyes, but was too tired and overwhelmed by that morning and yesterday to bother trying to fight them off. She could have gotten at least a diagnosis if she'd pulled me from the academy and used that money instead, but she absolutely refused because it was my dream. She gave up her health for me. And she's always smiling and joking around like she's not sick, not slowly dying. Even though I know she's in constant pain, she never lets it show. Even if she says it, she doesn't act like it. And she does that all for me. Also, I worry less, and don't hurt as much. Sakura swallowed hard and took a deep breath before continuing. She's the strongest person I've ever met. She does everything for me. How could I complain about any of that to you two of all people? Even without mentioning that, having severe financial problems isn't exactly something I'm proud of. Besides, it's not like you guys share everything about yourselves. Sasuke's eyes softened. You overthink too much. Quote. Huh. He couldn't blame her for this one though. Not after how he'd belittled her in the very first conversation they'd ever had. Itachi had stolen his childhood the night of the massacre. He'd aged years that night. Part of why he never got closer to any of his classmates was because they all seemed so childish, unfamiliar and unable to deal with how hard the real world was. Apparently he and Sakura were the same. She hadn't had the luxury of being a child since she was 8, same as him. That's right. You should be proud, Sakura-chan. What? You're amazing. Naruto beamed. You've been doing so much. You and your mom are alive thanks to you. You're really incredible, Sakura-chan. And now we know why you hide so much. It's genetic. Sakura blinked. She'd never thought of it that way. I was so scared they'd think I was pathetic, but it seems like they actually respect me more. But we're teammates, you know. You're the one who said it. We three are one. Believe it. So don't try to carry this alone anymore. Isn't that right, bastard? He smirked. The idiot was right on this one. Sasuke-kun, Naruto, thank you. Sakura said with a truly relieved and grateful smile. Sasuke smirked back at her while Naruto beamed with his hands up behind his head. I should have known. These two. Hell yeah, our team rocks. Dum. The Chunin selection exams. I'll bet there'll be a lot of tough competition, like him. Naruto sang as they started walking again. He was thinking about the weird ninja with the black hood and the face paint he'd run into the other day. Sasuke couldn't help the shiver of excitement at the thought that he might get to face off against that Gaara kid. He glanced over at Sakura, whose smile had faded, replaced by anxiety as she chewed on her lip. I don't know if I should, Sasuke-kun said it himself. I can't keep up with Naruto, this exam might be too much for me. He had a feeling he knew what the problem was. After all, just yesterday he was the one who told her she was dead weight. He felt a sinking feeling in his chest. She did need to train, but he was wrong. The one thing Sakura had never been was useless. He wanted to tell her as much, but Sasuke wasn't particularly good with words. Especially words of comfort. So he said nothing. Sakura sat on the windowsill at 5 a.m., watching the dawn break. She held her filled-out Chunin exam application form in her hands. She still had no idea whether she should go or not. She'd created more ointment just in case, as well as some tonics for energy, immune boost, and stamina, but her internal debate of whether to actually follow through and go was ceaseless. Chunin get higher paying missions. That assumes I pass. Well, it's not even an option if we don't try. I've barely trained, I might fail. Quote. Since when have we been in the habit of failing? This is different. I don't know what this exam entails. We don't know what life entails either. But what if I do fail? Then we try again, damn it. Quote. I'm not strong enough for this. Do we really wanna get left behind by Naruto and Sasuke-kun? Hell number. Do we really wanna be separated from Sasuke-kun? Oh, of course not. Damn straight. Are we really gonna prove Amy right? I mean, though we're not. Shanaru. We'd rather set ourselves on fire than let that bitch win. That's a little much. Despite the fact that Sakura was at the school the next day by 3:20, anxiety had actually made her early for once. She couldn't shake tea. Self-doubt welling inside her. She stood next to Sasuke as they waited for Naruto, doing her best to project that she belonged here and had total confidence in her abilities. Act it and eventually you'll feel it, she told herself, although she'd been trying to do that for years without much success. She didn't notice how Sasuke was closely observing her from the corner of his eye. Hey Sakura, Naruto called excitedly. She was here before him for once. Apparently Sasuke was the only one who found that odd. Hi, Sakura answered. She looked tense. It was well hidden, but Sasuke had worked with her long enough to tell. What was up with her? Was she still thinking about 2 days ago? Is this where I sign my name? Naruto asked his pink-haired teammate, holding up the application. Can't you read? She answered flatly, pointing at the correct area nonetheless. The three made their way into the school building, crowded with people they'd never seen before. As they walked up the steps to the third floor, Sakura felt a very slight ripple of something wash over her. Like a barely noticeable brush of mist against her skin. What was that? It feels familiar. Where did I feel this before? Quote. They walked up the steps to the third floor. Why does it feel like we got here too soon? There was a large crowd around room 301. A boy in a green spandex bodysuit and a bowl cut was on the floor, a large purple bruise on his cheek. Is someone as talentless as you really planning to take the Chunin selection exam? Why bother? Bunch of wet behind the ears snotnoses. A boy with wildly spiked hair sneered from his spot in front of the door. Sakura immediately caught the 3 bandages on his face, one on his chin, and one on either cheek. Weird because his nose was bruised and cut up. You said it. His friend next to him had a turtleneck up to his chin. A girl with brown hair in 2 buns stepped in front of the boy on the floor bravely, facing the 2 boys blocking the door. Please, we're begging you, let us in. Sakura only saw a mere flicker of movement before the girl was on the ground holding her bruised cheek. That's just cruel. An onlooker murmured. What did you say? The spiky-haired boy countered. You misunderstand. We're just trying to spare you. The Chunin exam is incredibly difficult, and we should know. We've failed 3 times so far. There are people who made it, then immediately gave up being a shinobi, others who ended up crippled, some reduced to vegetables, we've seen it all. Murmurs went through the crowd at the intimidating proclamation. Besides that, Chunin are cell commanders. They lead their units. The responsibilities for failed missions and dead shinobi rests firmly on their shoulders. And you little punks have the nerve to apply. We're saving a step by weeding out the obvious losers beforehand. That sounds good in theory, Sasuke answered, leading Team 7 boldly forward. But you'd better let me through. And drop the genjutsu while you're at it. I have business on the 3rd floor. That's what that feeling was. It was just like what I felt during the bell test when Kakashi-sensei used genjutsu on me. I thought we got here too. Sakura tried not to be too shaken by the strange interaction with her sensei. She didn't have to try too hard, because not a second after she walked through the door, the sight of a very full classroom shook her more. So many people, are they all here to apply? They look incredible. Many looked far older than them. All of them looked tough. Hardened. Sakura felt the doubt she was wrestling get the upper hand again. Sasuke-kun, I've seen you twice in a few days, I'm so lucky, cutie. Ino shouted, latching her arms around Sasuke the same way she had 2 days ago. Of course someone as strong as you would be here. Sasuke glared at her, deciding he definitively did not like the feel of the blonde girl's arms around him. Ino, you pig. Get your hooves off Sasuke. Let go of him, Ino. Both Ino and Sasuke's gaze snapped to Sakura. Sasuke studied her carefully. She wasn't as tense and blank as she'd been 2 days ago after he'd cut her with his words and Amy showed up. Her tone wasn't as politely detached either. It was blank, but it wasn't detached. That had to be good, right? Oh, you're here too, Sakura. Ino said stiffly, her arms releasing Sasuke. There was concern in her eyes, despite her stiff tone and movements. She's still looking down on me, isn't she? That pig. We'll show her. Why wouldn't I be? My team relies on my judgment. Sakura stated firmly. If she pretended it was a fact, maybe she'd feel like it was. Sasuke smirked a little. Her tone was still blank, but her statement was definitive, and the way she said it left no room for doubt. Good. Why don't you 3 save yourselves the embarrassment of flunking this test? Shikamaru drawled lazily as he and Choji strode over to join Ino. Well, if it isn't the Three Stooges. Naruto called. Stop calling us that, Shikamaru lazily protested. Hey, there you are. Came an excited shout from an attractive brown-haired boy with a small white dog on his head. A pale lavender-eyed girl, and a boy in dark sunglasses followed behind him. Team 8 had decided to join the party, comprised of Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino, and Hyuga Hinata. Hi, Hinata muttered shyly, her face flushing. Sakura always liked Hinata. They were never particularly close, but she was one of the only kids to not bully her and treat her with a level of polite cordiality instead of contempt, indifference or superiority. Although she'd noticed that the girl's focus always seemed to be on Naruto. That must be why she's blushing now. Her eyes, they're the same as that boy from earlier. The one with that Lee weirdo, I wonder if they're related. Looks like the gang's all here. Kiba smirked. Including you, unfortunately. Shikamaru had always found Kiba to be noisy. Especially when in the presence of the already noisy Naruto. So, I guess all three of this year's rookie genin decided to apply, huh? Kiba said loudly. I wonder how far we'll all get. What do you think, Sasuke? Kiba was as competitive as Naruto. Trying to psych us by acting cool, Kiba? Sasuke asked with a smirk. Who's acting? The way we've trained. No way can you beat us. Kiba answered, laughing. Oh, shut up. You guys won't even beat me, much less Sasuke. Naruto shouted. He didn't include me on that. Her eyes dropped to the ground. She knew there was good reason for it. She'd barely trained at all, but still. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. Kiba-kun didn't mean that the way it sounded, Hinata murmured, fidgeting with her fingers, her cheeks bright red. Sakura felt proud of her. She'd made a lot of progress. Before, she wouldn't have been able to say 3 words to Naruto. Even if she still couldn't look him in the eye, it was a lot of progress. Huh? Naruto asked, squinting at her. Shanaru, what an oblivious idiot. Hey you guys. You should be a little quieter. You guys are the rookie 9, fresh out of the academy, right? All snot-nosed and wet behind the ears. This isn't a school field trip, you know. A young man with glasses, silver hair in a short ponytail, and a Konoha Hittite said, approaching them. This guy looks to be 19, Sakura cast a quick glance around the room. Just how much younger are we than the average applicant? Rock Lee and the two with him seemed at most a year older, but everyone else here looks like they've got at least 3 years on us, that's 3 years more experience. Who the heck do you think you are? Ino demanded. She always had been bold and held no social apprehension whatsoever. She didn't need it. She was confident in herself, fearless, well-liked and well-respected. She was popular. It was something Sakura and Hinata had always respected about Ino. I'm Yakushi Kabuto. And you kids should really open your eyes and look around. Sakura's mint green eyes swept the room again and this time noted how many of the applicants were glaring at them, studying them. Oh. Are both. Damn, we drew too much attention to ourselves already. Behind you, they're from a megacure. They've got very short fuses. Everyone's on edge waiting to take the exam. I wanted to give you a heads up before someone snaps and beats the crap out of you. But it's probably unavoidable. Like all rookies, you think you already know everything. I remember what that was like. Sure, he's older than us and thus obviously has more experience, but he's talking like he's specifically familiar with this exam. It's Kabuto-san, right? Sakura asked. Yeah, you sound very familiar with this exam. How many times have you taken it? Twice for 2 years, going on 4 years now, this'll be my 7th. That's strange. Is the test really that hard? Or is he just that bad? Number. I don't think it's that. If he were that bad, I doubt he'd be talking to us right now. Even if it's an attempt to intimidate us, by speaking to us, he's drawing attention to himself too. It'll bring more heat on him come the actual exam. That's not a smart tactical move, so why? Did he fail intentionally? I don't know. I don't like him. Wow. Then you've got a lot of experience with what we can expect. Quote. Sasuke and Ino's eyes jumped to Sakura. The politeness in her tone was the same detached sort of pleasantness she used when she spoke to Amy. Her mask of excited, nervous politeness was perfect. Sasuke almost bought it. But looking really carefully into her mint green eyes, he could see the traces of cautious calculation. Something about this Kabuto guy wasn't adding up to Sakura, and she didn't trust him. I guess so. Kabuto's gray eyes scanned the 9 kids in front of him, before he smirked. I guess the least I can do is give my cute little juniors some vital intelligence on what you're in for, with these shinobi skill cards. Kabuto said, pulling out a deck of cards. What's his angle? Shinobi skill cards. She'd never heard of those. To put it simply, they contain information about the skills we use, transformed into symbols and burned into the cards using chakras. This is 4 years worth of intelligence. In all, there are almost 200 cards. He said, squatting and placing one on the ground in front of him. Is that why he's failed 6 times? He's just here to collect data. But why? What good is that doing him? The test and test takers are always different. If he's not using the information to pass the test, what's he using it for? They look blank, don't they? The only way you can read the data on the cards, the rookies gathered around as he began spinning the blank card on the ground with his finger. What's he doing? Ino asked, leaning in. Is by using my own personal chakra. Each set is linked to the possessor. For example, cards like this one. This is a 3D bar graph, Sakura murmured, studying the way each bar came out of a region from a map of the 5 great nations. At the bottom was a key with the symbols of the hidden villages, each with numbers next to them. Konoha had the highest numbers. Sakura scanned the room once more, noting the amount of Konoha Hitai 8. This is showing how many applicants each nation sent, right? Is it for this year's exam, or is this last year's? This year's. Kabuto considered the pink-haired girl. She was smarter than he would have thought. Not only had she inferred the meaning of the card very quickly, she had enough presence of mind to clarify which exam it referred to. If it's for this exam, how does he have this data? Did he just make the card now after doing a head count? Quote, do you also have profile cards? Cards for each individual applicant? Sasuke asked. He probably wants more info on Lee, or that teammate Lee mentioned. I'm glad he asked though. If Kabuto-san has that kind of information, then something's definitely off. Quote, Kabuto laughed. Why? Someone here you have particular interest in? I'll admit these are far from complete, but I've burned a set of profile cards for the current pool of applicants, including your team. If you share any data you have on this person who interests you, I'll be happy to look them up and let you know what I have so far. Sakura stiffened. Our team? How does he have anything on our team? Maybe it's just our names. Gaara from Sunagaku, and Rock Lee from Konoha. Who's Gaara? When'd he meet someone from Suna? Not sure. Maybe it was after I left that other day. You know their names. No sweat. Then, he flipped 2 cards, one holding information on Lee, the other holding information of Gaara. First up is Rock Lee. He's a year older than you 3. Missions to date. 20D ranked, 11C ranked. His team's mentor is Might Guy. His taijutsu physical skills have grown exponentially this past year. He has no other talents worth mentioning. He was considered a standout among last year's genin, but he didn't apply for the Chunin exam. He's a first-timer, like you 3. So how does he have this much detailed information on him? His teammates are Hyuga Neji and Tenten. Hyuga? So he is related to Hinata-chan. She glanced over at the girl and noticed she was looking away, her face gloomy and anxious. Looks like there's family drama. Next is Gaara of the Sand, Desert Country, 8C ranked missions, 1B rank. Wow, not many genin shinobi get B ranked assignments. Ha, we got an A- rank. Suck it. Quote, technically it was AC rank. And it was probably reported that way. I wonder how his cards register it. Since he's from way out in the desert, I have less on him, but it's interesting. He's come back from every mission unscathed. without a scratch on him. A tense silence fell around the 9 rookies. How could a genin complete a B rank without getting so much as a scratch? That couldn't be possible. Just how strong was that guy? Kabuto-san, could you show me my card? Sakura asked, smiling politely. Sasuke looked over at her curiously, immediately noticing the well-hidden strain of her mouth. Kabuto studied her. Of course, he smiled. I don't have very much on your cards though. Feel free to help fill it in. I don't think I'd be a good unbiased source of data. She answered, her smile still in place. He brought out her card, revealing the number of D ranks, and their team's 1C rank. It did have that she was 13, which meant her birthday was included in his data. The card either auto-updated, was made taking her age at the time of the test into consideration, or was freshly made that day. Her skills classification was rather weak, which was embarrassing, although she expected it. It didn't contain deep personal background information such as family life or status, which was good. That meant the data he'd gathered only directly pertained to shinobi skills. The cards also seemed to lack a delineation for intelligence, analytical skill, or chakra control. Good. Our Land of Waves mission is marked as AC rank. That means his data is only within the realms of public domain. He didn't have some alternate information about us coming in. These also are only gauging clear-cut power and abilities, which means he's not closely monitoring us. He must have gotten this information from some kind of public profile, or applicant report. It still doesn't explain how he had access or got that information so fast though. Sasuke recognized the look in Sakura's eyes. It was the same one she had when she'd paused between her attempts at dancing up the tree. She'd stared at the tree with the same focused calculating look that she now had turned on her rather disappointing card. There was something bothering her. Something she was analyzing and trying to figure out. Like I said earlier, these profiles are incomplete, and you all are fresh out of the academy brats. There isn't much for you to show for it comparatively to someone who's had more time and training, like Lee. Quote, he must have interpreted Sakura's look as offense at how weak her card made her seem. Good. That means he's not suspicious about why I asked to see or what I was looking for. It does suck though. His stupid card makes us seem like we're entirely pathetic, damn it. Quote, Konoha, Suna, Aim, Kusa, Taki, Odo, this year every hidden village has sent outstanding genin ninja here to compete. I don't know much about Odo, the hidden sound village. It's part of a new, small nation, so intelligence is lacking. Every other competing village is well respected, home to formidably powerful shinobi. That kind of makes you lose your confidence. Hinata murmured. Why are you saying that now? Ino admonished. What you're trying to tell us is, everyone here, Sakura said, her self-doubt starting to win over again. Oh yeah, they're all like Lee and Gaara, elite hand-picked shinobi, the best genin in the world. They have to be. The test is pitiless. Naruto'd been unusually quiet throughout the whole exchange. Sakura glanced over at him, her concern growing when she saw him shaking. Looks like our team's overconfident buttheads got the shakes. And who can blame him? We're all genin here, but we three are the youngest, absolute beginners. Still, it's not like Naruto. Maybe if I give him a little pep talk. Sakura stepped towards him and placed a comforting hand on his back. It's all right, Naruto. Nothing to worry about. Before she could say anything more, Naruto looked up boldly at everyone in the room, pointing and shouting, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. And none of you are gonna beat me. Believe it. You got that. What's his problem? Ino shrieked furiously. Typical. He's too stupid to know he's got problems. Yeah, that felt great, Naruto said, stretching with a huge smile on his face. Oh, please, Sasuke muttered, rolling his eyes. If not everyone was glaring at us before, they certainly are now. Shanaro. That idiot just had to draw even more attention to us. Sakura felt annoyance take over her body, and before she knew it, she had Naruto in a chokehold. What are you blathering about, you idiot? I'm telling the truth, Naruto protested. Sakura felt the bloodlust from the crowd growing palpably, and immediately knew she had to do some very fast damage control. She slapped her hand over Naruto's mouth and looked over at the crowd of fast-growing enemies. Pay no attention to my friend, he's quite an idiot you see, after all he says idiotic, spazzy, scatterbrained things and gets carried away, often. Please don't concern yourself with him. She dragged Naruto back, away from the group of murderous-looking genin, trying to seek refuge for herself and her boneheaded teammate. Seriously, what the hell were you thinking? Quote. But Sakura-chan. Her admonishment was cut short when three sound nin charged at Kabuto. One of them, his face fully wrapped in bandages, got close enough to take a swing at the older leaf genin. Kabuto dodged it, but his glasses cracked. What's going on? He dodged the blow, but something broke his glasses. Sasuke said, shocked. The whole thing had been so fast he'd barely seen Kabuto move, but he knew he dodged the attack. His nose probably got grazed, serves him right for acting all superior. Shikamaru muttered. Kabuto suddenly shuddered and collapsed to all fours, vomiting. Aw man, he's hurling. Naruto shouted. Kabuto-san. Sakura was by his side in an instant. Despite how unsettling she found him, her instinct to help the sick and injured took over. Sasuke and Naruto followed close behind her. Naruto was worried about Kabuto, and Sasuke wanted to be close to Sakura since the sound ninja were still nearby. Why and might attack again? Are you alright? Sakura asked, a supporting hand on the silver-haired man's back. Yeah, I'm fine. You don't look fine, Naruto informed him. Sakura studied his lips and skin tone, normal. Likely this wasn't poison. There was no entry wound either. The sound nin had attempted to punch him. Blunt force to the stomach might induce vomiting, but he dodged. He wasn't hit in the stomach. Hitting the head might cause a concussion, common side effects being dizziness leading to nausea, but Kabuto never hit his head. She studied his eyes, which were trying to focus in on one point. Almost like he was dizzy. Why would he be dizzy though? Was there a jutsu involved? She hadn't seen anyone weave any hand signs. You're a pushover, aren't you? Pretty sad for someone who's been an applicant for 4 years now. The sound nin who'd attacked spoke. Better add this to your cards. The 3 applicants from Otogakure will all make Chunin this year. A spiky-haired sound nin said. Sakura, what's wrong with him? Sasuke asked quietly. I don't know. My guess is he's dizzy. Dizzy. Yeah, it can lead to nausea or vomiting. Why would he be dizzy? Quote, I don't know. Sometimes it's a side effect of concussions, although there's no reason he should have one. He may have given himself vertigo from the speed of motion, although that'd make him a pretty lousy ninja. It could have been a jutsu. Sasuke studied Kabuto as he rose unsteadily, blinking, trying to hold his focus on one point. He did seem dizzy. As Kabuto meandered unsteadily away, Sasuke turned to Sakura again. What was that earlier? With the cards. Something was bugging you, right? Sakura felt her heart flutter at the implication that Sasuke had been paying attention to her and could read her so well. She nodded, her cheeks flushing. His information, how does he have so much of it so quickly? Our exam hasn't even started yet. We're first-time applicants. So are Rock Lee and this Gaara person. How does he have so much data on us already? He even knew the exact applicant count and national breakdown, before the application period officially closed. You were trying to see exactly how detailed his information was on us. Without revealing anything about you or Naruto to the group. Yeah, she'd only discovered Sasuke's Sharingan today and it seemed like an advantage best kept a secret. And Naruto's quick recovery time and seemingly endless supply of chakra, she hadn't wanted anyone to know about her dumber teammates' strengths either. He needed his element of surprise. There was nothing special about her though, and everyone already thought her weak. The only thing at stake had been her pride. What's your conclusion? Our mission count was D ranks and 1 C rank, and his cards didn't include anything other than hard ability. Why scaling? It did have my birthday included, My guess is all the card information is within some sort of public domain, but how did he know to even know whose cards to make or what data to gather? Sasuke finished. Sakura nodded. His information is helpful, and it seems accurate. I think we can trust it. But I'd be careful about trusting him or telling him too much. Sasuke nodded in silent agreement. It seemed stupid to him that he hadn't even thought to find Kabuto's wealth of information suspicious. It really was a good thing Sakura had come to this exam with them. There was a large puff of smoke from the front of the classroom, interrupting the lingering chatter. Would everybody please just shut up? Exclamation mark quote. The smoke cleared to reveal several older ninja. Sorry to have kept you waiting. My name is Morino Ibiki. I'm the proctor and chief examiner for the first part of the exam, said a gruff man standing in the front of the group. He had 2 scars running diagonally up his face, and one close to his left eye trailing vertically down to the edge of his mouth. He had a long black coat and a black bandana covered the top of his head. He was imposing and left no room to question his authority. He pointed a black-gloved finger to the sound nin, who'd retreated towards the back. First part, I have a feeling this'll be a multi-day thing. Good thing I prepped food and medicine for mom, she should have enough for a week. Quote, you, the kids from Odogakure. You can't carry on any way you please when the exam's about to start. Or do you want to be disqualified? Sorry, sir, it's our first exam, and we got a little carried away. The boy with bandages covering his face answered. Is that so? Then it's high time someone laid down a few ground rules. From this point forward there will be no more fighting without the express permission of the examining officer, and even if that permission is granted, anything that endangers another applicant's life is strictly forbidden. Any of you maggots who break that rule are out. Disqualified. No second chances. Got that? Makes sense. It could cause an international incident otherwise, it might start a war. So this is a test for little girly men. The spiky-haired sound nin sneered. Sakura felt the entire female population of the room temporarily unified to glare at the asshole. Being a girl did not mean being weak or cowardly, though apparently many of their male colleagues had yet to learn that. Ibiki just smirked. Hey, very well. The first part of the selection exam is about to commence. Turn in your written applications, take one of these seating assignment cards, and report directly to the seat indicated. When everyone's seated, we'll pass out the written portion of the exam. A paper test. Naruto shouted, already sweating bullets. A paper test. Written portion of the exam was possibly the worst thing anyone could have ever said to Naruto. As Sakura lined up to pass in her application and get her seating number, trying her best not to dwell on how screwed Naruto was, she couldn't help but think the examiner with spiky hair and a bandage running horizontally across his face looked familiar. Was his brother the one downstairs giving us trouble? But the bandage on his face, skin-deep injuries aren't exactly genetic. She scanned the room, but saw no trace of the boy from earlier who'd blocked their way. Her eyes widened in realization. It's the same guy, isn't it? Sneaky. She exchanged her application for a seat number. As she passed the familiar examiner, she murmured loud enough for him to hear, I see you took my suggestion. The man, Hagane Katetsu, smirked, confirming her suspicion. He'd been rather surprised and amused she'd suggested bandaging his nose in the first place. In all honesty, he was impressed. Despite the nerves and tension she was bound to be feeling, she still managed enough awareness to make the connect. Tion. This kid was smart and calm under pressure. He had a feeling that she might be able to answer every question on the test on her own. It would defeat the purpose, but they hadn't accounted for a genin with that level of deductive reasoning. Everyone was seated, waiting for the test to begin, and Naruto already had his hands buried in his hair. Sakura had him in her sightline and could already tell he was freaking out. This must be Naruto's worst nightmare. He's panicking already. Sakura's assessment was correct. Naruto was indeed panicking. His teammates were spread out all over the room, so he couldn't even take comfort in their presence. What was he going to do? Naruto-kun. A soft voice came from his right. He turned to see a red-faced Hyuga Hinata. Oh, Hinata, how long have you been there? He hadn't even noticed her. This chick was a regular invisible girl. So quiet and easily overlooked. Let's do our best, she said, giving him a small smile which he easily returned. Papers face down until I give the signal. Now listen up, Ibiki barked, drawing all eyes in the room. There are a few big rules that pertain to this first test. I'll write them on the blackboard and explain them all, but I'm not taking questions, so listen carefully. I will only say this once. Rules, no questions. Why not? Most exams allow for clarifying questions. And why only say it once? A ninja must see through deception. Kakashi's frequent mantra floated through her head. Ah, I see. It's part of the test. To see how well we work with just what's given to us. And to test our memory. Rule number 1. Ibiki continued, his chalk scratching away at the board. Each of you starts with 10 points. The test has 10 questions, each worth 1 point. For each question you get wrong, we subtract 1 point from you. Get all 10 right, and you retain the 10 points you have. But if, for example, you answer 3 questions incorrectly, we take your 10 points, subtract 1 point for every wrong answer, and your total drops to 7. Quote, I already have questions, this test is operating in negative points. Since we start with the maximum amount, a correct answer is worth 0 and a wrong answer is worth -1, so what happens if we don't answer? If there's no penalty for not answering, then a blank test could be worth 10 points. Naruto hadn't noticed this discrepancy. His mind instead focused on the fact that if he got 10 wrong answers, he'd end up with no points at all. Rule number 2. This written test is still a team event. Passing or failing will be determined by the sum of points held by all 3 members of each cell. Sakura's head almost banged into the desk. The object is for each team to have as few deductions as possible from its joint 30-point total. Wait a second, Sakura shouted, completely forgetting the no question statement. If we're being graded as a team, why aren't we allowed to work with our teammates to answer the questions? Exclamation mark quote. Katetsu smirked again. This kid didn't realize how close to the answer she was, but he had no doubt she'd get there. What had the Uchiha brat said about her? She was the most analytical in their cell. And coming from the prodigy Uchiha, that meant something. Ibiki's eyes narrowed. If she pushed a little harder, she'd ruin the whole test right then and there. Did you not hear the part about, no questions? We have our reasons. Now shut up and listen. This next bit is crucial. The girl quieted, but he could see by her narrowed eyes that she was carefully calculating everything he said so far. Rule number 3. If, during the course of the exam, a candidate does anything out of the ordinary, in other words anything that leads the proctors to determine that he or she has cheated, we subtract 2 points from each member of the cheater's team. In all probability, some of you will run through your entire allowance of points during the test. If so, you'll be failed and asked to leave. I get it, there are more ways to lose points than just missing a question. But, something's weird about this. I'll be looking over your shoulders when you least expect it. Katetsu said from his chair against the wall, smirking at group of anxious genin. His eyes landed on the pink-haired girl from earlier. Despite her outburst earlier, she still seemed fairly calm. He could practically see the gears turning in her mind. If you let the proctors catch you cheating, you'll bring yourself and your friends down. If you aspire to become Chunin, if you want to be the best shinobi you can be, then you'd better start acting like you already are. Quote, okay, it's too bad about Naruto, but Sasuke-kun and I should be able to retain enough points for all 3 of us, even if Naruto gets every single answer wrong. One more thing. If any individual loses all 10 of his or her points, that person's cell, regardless of how the other 2 members do, will be disqualified. What? Across the room, Sasuke choked on his saliva. What the hell? Naruto was now sweating bullets, the pressure having been greatly amplified with those few words. He could feel both members of his team, ready to kill him already. You have 1 hour. Starting now. There was a rustle of paper and pencil scratching as everyone got to work. This is bad. This could be a no-win situation. Please, Naruto, try to hang on to at least one of your points. For his part, Naruto was unraveling. This was funny. Here he was again, facing the worst kind of enemy. Teachers didn't call him the all-time dunce for nothing. He earned that name on the field of battle. The trick was not to show any fear. Tests could smell fear. He had to remain calm, focus like Sakura always told him. Don't try to do everything at once. Look each question square in the eye. Try to find the weakest link, the easy one. Separate it from the herd and take it down. His raven-haired teammate watched his shivering back from 3 rows behind him. This was so not good. Naruto was an idiot. The best Sasuke could hope for was that the bonehead wouldn't panic. He looked down at the first question. Question number 1. Decode the following cipher and summarize its meaning. Sasuke blinked. Whoa. First up was cryptography. They wanted them to work their butts off. He'd been confident he'd be able to pass this written test easily, but now he wasn't so sure. Sakura's eyes glanced at Naruto again. I hope that idiot's doing okay. I've got to concentrate on my own test. I have to hang on to all my points to make up for him. Her green eyes drifted back to her own test, skimming through the questions. Question number 2. The parabola marked B represents the greatest effective distance the enemy shinobi, A, could throw from the top of a 7.07 meter tall tree. Calculate the specific features of the scenario and deduce the range of the shuriken's effectiveness, assuming a consistent speed for Shinobi A's assault upon enemy shinobi operating within the arc that the flight of the shuriken describes. Show your work. Dear God, Naruto's so screwed. This is, to solve this, you need to hypothesize under very uncertain conditions, and then apply the laws of kinetics to whatever you come up with. There's no way Naruto could answer this. Actually, neither could most of the people in this room. Quote, we can. Shanaru. Yes, but an average genin couldn't. It's too hard, bordering on impossible. Sasuke stared at his test with an almost amused frustration. Well, he didn't know how to answer a single one of the questions. Interesting. He'd always been top of the class. He was as academically gifted as he was skilled in combat. If he couldn't answer these, odds were very few in the room probably could. He figured Sakura was one of the few. This was her bread and butter. But Sakura's perfect score alone wouldn't be enough to carry them. He had to at least answer 7 or 8 correctly. And what was the deal with question 10? Question number 10. This question will not be provided until 45 minutes into the exam. At that time, please answer the proctor's question to the best of your ability. Sakura stared down at her test again. Things weren't adding up. There's too much that's strange about this. We're graded as a team but not allowed to work together. In fact, we're purposely spread around so we can't. Then there's the point system. Everyone starting with a perfect score and losing points on incorrect answers are getting caught cheating, and that affects all team members, but normally in a test, if you get caught cheating, that's the end automatically. Here you and your team just lose points if you're caught. A ninja must see through deception. Oh, Sakura's eyes widened. Ibiki had said it himself. If you let the proctors catch you cheating. This test is designed to force us to cheat. They expect us to. It's about information gathering, who can gather intel without being caught by the enemy. That's why we're graded as a cell too. If a team member is caught, everyone else's cover is blown too. Quote, Sakura closed her eyes for a moment, calmly analyzing her team's situation. Sasuke-kun probably won't be able to answer these, but he'll probably reach the same conclusion I did eventually and figure out a way to subtly cheat, probably using his Sharingan somehow. Naruto won't be able to think that clearly. He can't answer any of these questions, and if he comes to cheating it'll be a desperation move, not a calculated one. And he has no subtlety whatsoever. Like screaming his presence and jumping into a dome of ice mirrors, idiot. Exactly. Assuming there is no penalty for not answering the questions, our best bet is if he chooses not to answer, though I doubt he'll reach that conclusion logically. If it happens, it'll be more our luck than his brilliance. And us. I don't have a surefire way of cheating that won't get me caught, and I can answer these without it. So that's my best bet. Maybe Sasuke-kun will be able to cheat off me somehow. Sakura set to work powering through the incredibly difficult questions on the test. Naruto, on the other hand, completely devolved. He held his head in mortification, beads of sweat dripping down his face. Man, he was so screwed. Totally. Seriously. Fatally screwed. What do I do? Kept echoing around his empty head. He let out a quiet exclamation. Crop. Hinata looked over at him, her face flushing at the blonde sitting so close next to her. But he looked so stressed. He was having such a hard time with this test, and she couldn't stop the concern from making its way to her face. She wanted to help him somehow. Sasuke eyed the proctors lining the walls. They were watching them like hawks. It's like they expected them to cheat. He watched as a proctor suddenly began to make notes on his clipboard. Someone just got nailed. Sakura finished answering the sixth question and stared down at her test, a frustrated hand raking through her hair. Rule number 2 makes it pretty clear that we're competing against each other. Obviously, only teams that keep the most points will be allowed to pass. I just wish I knew where the cutoff was. How many of the top teams can pass? Not that knowing would change anything, but the uncertainty is driving me nuts. The boy next to her, wearing a sand Hittite, stood up suddenly. You know, the one thing I keep wondering is how many of the top-ranking teams will be allowed to pass. Guess we weren't the only ones who were curious. Ibiki started chuckling, which Sakura took as a bad sign. Knowing that isn't going to help you, is it? Unless you're hoping to fail. I'm sorry, the boy murmured, sitting down quickly. I figured as much. If only about 10 of the 51 teams here can pass, all 3 of us need to retain as many points as possible. The system is set up so that it forces you to cheat. I just hope Sasuke-kun and Naruto don't panic and do it sloppily. No, Sasuke-kun will be fine. But Naruto, maybe he'll magically learn the art of subtlety. Yeah, when hell freezes over. Naruto was trying to talk himself down from a nervous breakdown. Remain calm. Above all, proceed with caution, and cheat well enough that they don't catch him. Immediately he knew that was a terrible idea and he shouldn't even go there. As Sasuke continued to eye the proctors, scratching away at their clipboards, Ibiki's words from earlier played through his head. That was it. He got it now. This was an intelligence test, in more than just an academic sense. Naruto had to wake up. He'd be history if he didn't figure it out. They were testing their information gathering skills. They wanted them to cheat like shinobi, without getting caught. The proctors wanted them to cheat really well, the way the best shinobi would if they needed to gather information in a real-world mission. That explained the 2-point deductions. The real message was you could get caught 4 times before you face disqualification. They weren't being tested on whether they knew the answers, but on how skillfully they could discover them. And any minute now, anyone else who figured it out would start going for it. He was right. Akamaru, Kiba's dog, was sitting on the scruffy brunette's head, peeking at others' tests and quietly barking the answers to his owner. An insect was flying in fancy patterns in front of Shino, communicating the answers. 1010 had somehow managed to rig some sheets of mirror around the light fixture and tilting them with strings, allowing both her and Lee to see other people's answers. Dosu, the sound ninja that attacked Kabuto earlier, listened closely to the pencil strokes of someone nearby, and copied what he differentiated from the sound of the writing. Neji activated his Hyuga clan Kekkei Genkei, enhancing his vision and allowing him to see the answers of the person in front of him. Sasuke looked around. He needed to find who had the answers. There had to be someone they planted, if they expected them to cheat. He first tried to locate Sakura. She'd probably figured out the whole test ages ago. And he doubted she needed to cheat to answer the questions, she was probably efficiently solving them on her own. He finally caught sight of her. Her soft pink hair was hard to miss, but the angle wasn't good. She was one row in front of him, very far to his left. He had to lean too much to get a good look at her, and even then the sightline wasn't great. It'd be too obvious he was cheating. Luckily, a guy Sasuke had a much clearer sightline of seemed to be writing answers with relative ease. That was the one he'd use. He'd mimic his ever move with his Sharingan. The sound of the clock ticking was too loud to Naruto. He was running out of time. He had to cheat, he was dead anyways. No sooner had he thought it than a kunai whizzed past his arm, impaling itself in the chest of the boy behind him, who let out a scream of shock. What was that for? The boy demanded. Kotetsu smirked. That's 5 strikes, and you're out. And no way, the boy looked horrified. Take your teammates with you. Out. Now. Dang, one of the boy's teammates muttered as the 3-man cell trudged dejectedly from the room. You're done here. Move it, Kotetsu said, ushering them out. Naruto let out a shaky breath. That was close. No way was he gonna risk cheating now, not alone. And Naruto-kun, you can look at my test, if you want, Hinata offered kindly. Naruto just stared at her blankly. Naruto-kun, please, look at my answers. Hinata tried again, her cheeks scarlet. Naruto blinked in confusion. What was she talking about? Why would Hinata want to help him? It had to be some kind of trick, but that was pretty low. And Hinata had never been anything but quiet and, well, nice, he guessed. She wasn't the kind of girl to play a trick like that. But Kiba might, and they were teammates, he could have forced her to. Level with me, what's in it for you if you help me? Naruto asked suspiciously. It's just, she fidgeted and swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. And the courage to say them. I don't want you to have to leave so soon, Naruto-kun. That seemed to confuse him even more, as he continued to stare at her blankly. What did it matter to her if he left now? Well, you know, there are only 9 of us rookies, and we don't know what we're facing. The odds will be better for all of us, if we stick together, at least, for now, Hinata finished lamely. What a terrible lie. Her team aside, it didn't matter much to her who else passed. It'd be nice if all her old classmates did, but ultimately the only one she really cared to see succeed was Naruto. Oh, okay. Hey, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Sorry for doubting you. Naruto said with a smile. It was his lucky day. Good thing Hinata got placed next to him. Hinata subtly slid her chest over slightly, closer to Naruto, who turned to look at it before he froze. He heard the telltale signs of a proctor scratching notes on his clipboard, and when he glanced over and saw the proctor look up at him and smirk, his stomach dropped. Hinata, don't you get it? Huh, quote, a world-class ninja like me just isn't the kind of guy who cheats. But, Naruto-kun. Besides, if I get busted, I don't want you to have to pay for having helped me. Huh, Hinata tried to keep herself from blushing harder. Naruto was worried about her. Naruto on the other hand felt like he was flatlining. If he got caught doing the crime, Sakura and the bastard would have to do the time. He couldn't afford to mess up here. I'm sorry I bothered you. Hey, no problem, great. She believed him. At least he had his honor while being completely screwed over. They only had half an hour left. At this point, his only hope was the last question. Sakura passed a hand through her hair with a sigh. She finished. She'd answered all 9 of those impossibly hard questions. The only thing left to do was wait for the 10th. She hoped Sasuke was able to find someone to cheat off of. It was weird and made no sense, but a piece of her hoped he'd cheat off her. It would mean that he trusted her enough to have the answers. It would mean she was useful. That she did something to help the team get through this test, that she did something to help him. Sasuke let out a relieved huff. He really hit the jackpot with this guy. He'd been planning to mimic 2 or 3 other people just in case, but he'd been writing nonstop with his first target. It wasn't as ideal as Sakura. She was still his first choice. He knew her, knew how smart she was, and trusted her answers. He had no doubt Sakura would retain her perfect score. This guy meant nothing to him. For all he knew, his answers were dead wrong. He just hoped that since he was writing so much so continuously, the guy must have some sense of what he was saying. Ino had a similar train of thought to Sasuke, and a better sightline to her former friend. There was a reason she'd nicknamed Sakura, Forehead. It had been Ino's version of Smarty Pants. Ino knew for a fact that Sakura was a genius. She had an almost perfect memory and spent most of her time with her nose buried in a book or scroll. She used to play trivia and memory games for fun, back when she let herself have fun. Now that Sakura had stopped writing, it was time to make her move. The Yamanaka clan's signature technique, the mind transfer jutsu. A small part of her did feel bad using it on an unsuspecting Sakura, but she was the one to end their friendship and push her away. Ino had nothing to be sorry for. Mind transfer jutsu. Ino slumped forward as her spirit left her body, entering Sakura's instead. She quickly looked over her test, memorizing her answers. Once she had them all memorized, she'd release the jutsu and answer them on her own test. Then she'd possess Shikamaru and Choji, and fill in their tests for them as well. The proctors continued scratching away, calling out more and more failed applicants. On your feet, number 102. You fail. You too, number 23. You're out. Number 43 and 27, start walking. You all fail. Quote. Sakura, now freed from Ino's possession and mostly unaware she'd ever been under it in the first place, bit at her lip. That was 13 cells they'd flunked so far. Some weren't taking their failure gracefully. A Sand Genin slammed his hand down on the desk. Cheated 5 times. Me. What proof do you have? How could you possibly watch so many students at once? The proctor he'd been challenging suddenly vanished, and the next thing anyone knew, the Sand Genin was slammed into the opposite wall. Listen up and listen good. We proctors are the elite. Even in a group as skilled as the one gathered here today, we are by far the best. We miss nothing. You got that, brats. He pressed harder into the boy, easily pinning him hard and high enough his feet didn't touch the floor, and only using nay arm. You feel this? Well, I am as skilled as I am powerful. The terrified, flunked, Genin nodded. The proctor released him and the boy scurried out, determined to put as much distance between him and the proctor as possible. Everyone else was too intimidated to contest being flunked after that. Ibiki studied a perfect calm red-haired Sand Genin. Subaku no Gara. That brat was up to something. Whatever it was, he was doing it without batting an eye, perfectly calm in the eye of a hurricane. For a rookie, he was amazing. Kotetsu was also had his focus on an individual candidate. He hadn't been surprised when Sakura's eyes had widened, scanned the room, the board where the rules were written, and then calmly closed her eyes, in thought. He hadn't been surprised when she opened her eyes, gave a small nod, and set to work answering all the questions on the test, without cheating. What he had been surprised about was how quickly she'd figured it out. It took her 7 minutes to put together what this test was really for. She'd been the first to get it. It took her 23 minutes to answer all the questions on the test, ones that were impossibly hard and that even some Chunin struggled with. She'd finished long before anyone else. Now she was just sitting there, idly twirling her pencil between her fingers, looking as if the tense environment had no effect on her. He hoped none of her teammates screwed up. He'd be lying if he said he wasn't pulling for her. The Uchiha was fine. Kotetsu had been watching him carefully, and while he knew the boy was cheating, he couldn't catch how. He was sure no other proctors had caught him either. He had to hand it to him. Uchiha Sasuke was skilled. The loud blonde one on the other hand, well, it was easy to see the kid was a basket case. Still, he was gutsy, challenging a whole room of older, more experienced genin like that. And Sakura was just so intelligent and level-headed. He couldn't shake the hope that their team would pass. He wanted to see them in action together as a team. They were all interesting. Excuse me. A sand genin in a black cat-like hood with purple face paint stood up and raised his hand. What is it? A proctor asked. I've got to go to the bathroom. Of course. One of the proctors will accompany you. The proctor answered, placing handcuffs on him as a precaution. Why not? The boy answered carelessly and he was led out of the room. 5 minutes later, Ibiki glanced at the clock. They'd weeded out the worst of the slackers, it was time to move on to the most important question. 45 minutes had passed. It was time. Get ready for the 10th question. He announced to the room. Naruto swallowed hard, cold sweating from his anxiety. Here it comes. He had everything riding on this question. Sasuke looked at Naruto's tensed back. Mr. Big Shot didn't seem to be talking to so large now. He really hoped the doofus didn't mess this up too bad. Their team hadn't been thrown out for cheating, which likely meant that Naruto hadn't cheated. In a way, that was more nerve-wracking, cause God knew the idiot couldn't answer these questions. Sakura's pencil twirled back into writing position. This was just one more mountain to climb, the last for this part of the test. Before we get to the question itself, I'm adding one more rule. He was cut off by the door opening, as the sand genin returned from the bathroom, with the proctor in tow. Hey, looks like you're in luck. The time you've spent playing with dolls hasn't been completely wasted. To his credit, the boy kept his face impassive, but Ibiki saw the bead of sweat on his cheek. Don't worry about it. Sit down. When the boy was seated, Ibiki continued. Let me explain. This rule is absolute. Naruto swallowed hard. An absolute rule. Just how much worse could this question be than the others? First, you must choose whether to accept or reject the 10th question. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Accept or reject? What was this about? Choose. A sand kunoichi with sandy blonde hair in 4 spiky pigtails shouted. What happens if someone doesn't accept the question? If you reject the question and don't even try to answer it, you lose all your points immediately and fail. And both your teammates will fail right along with you. Quote. The room erupted in shouts of surprise and complaint. Sakura raised her hand. When Ibiki's eyes fell on her, she asked, then why would anyone choose to reject the question? Her tone was calm, her eyes serious and calculating. Ibiki studied her. For a girl her age, who spent a fair amount of time on her looks, if her shiny long hair and flawless skin were any indication, she sure was level-headed. Because of the other rule, Sakura had figured there was a catch. It was why she asked the question in the first place. If you answer the question, and get it wrong, you will never be permitted to apply for the Chunin selection exams again. Not ever. If there had been complaint before, it was nothing to the protest that broke out now. You can't be serious. That's ridiculous. There are ninja here who've sat the Chunin exams more than once already. We know there are. Kiba shouted angrily, pointing an accusing finger. Ibiki chuckled, a sound Sakura had begun to associate with more bad news for them. God, this guy's a sadist. Just your rotten luck. I wasn't making the rules in the past years. I am now. I've been up front with you. You can take the failing grade now, and try again later. Anyone who has doubts would be smart to reject the 10th question now. Come back and reapply next year, and the year after. Sakura studied the imposing proctor. Talk about a no-win situation. If even one member rejects the question, then all 3 team members fail for the year. If anyone accepts the question and gets wrong, he's stuck at genin level for the rest of his life. Heads you win, tails we lose. No sane person could make such a choice. Sakura took a deep breath, and willed herself to think clearly. There had to be a trick here, just like there was with the rest of the test. If you reject the question and don't even try to answer it, that means we're supposed to try. Come back and reapply next year, and the year after. If we don't answer this question now, he expects us to keep failing, next year and the year after. He wants us to accept the question. But the consequence if we get it wrong? Does he even have the power to forever keep us from promotion? Maybe it's Leaf Genin, but he's got no authority in other nations, right? Quote, I don't know, it's an international exam, maybe it requires international agreement. Besides, like Kabuto-san's data showed, Konoha sent the most applicants. Taking a test in a foreign nation being proctored by foreign ninja already requires a level of courage and mental fortitude, maybe he doesn't expect any foreign ninja to get it wrong, maybe it's targeting Leaf Genin. Sakura shook her head. The politics of it didn't matter. And she wasn't inclined to doubt someone as intimidating as Ibiki's level of authority. For now she'd have to proceed under the assumption his threat was accurate. The whole room looked apprehensive, with the exception of Gaara and Sakura. Although the latter was apprehensive, she was just very used to and adept at hiding her anxiety. Naruto was full out trembling. Ready. Then let's begin. Those who choose not to accept should raise their hands. Once their number has been confirmed, they will leave the room. Naruto's teeth clenched. What kind of stupid question could it be? If he got it wrong, he'd be a genin for the rest of his life, not acceptable. But if he rejected the question, Sasuke and Sakura would suffer for his lack of guts. Sakura looked over at Naruto and could see him shaking. She felt her heart give a little. I don't intend to raise my hand. Ibiki-san wants us to accept the question and I'm sure I can answer it, whatever it may be. But even if Naruto decides to play it safe and reject the question, and we all fail, all I'll lose is time. I won't have failed forever, and I can apply again for the next exam. I may even be more ready by then, but, Naruto, you're different. It'd be foolish of you to sacrifice yourself forever for our sakes. Reject the question. I quit. I'm rejecting the question. The boy next to Naruto shouted, standing up abruptly. Jenna. Anaho. Forgive me. Number 50. Failed. Number 130 and number 111, you fail along with him. Damn. The three walked out as more people started rejecting the question. In the back of her mind, Sakura registered that most of them were indeed Konoha genin, but she was too focused on Naruto and his obvious mental breakdown to think much about it. Naruto, why don't you raise your hand? I did it. I'm a ninja. It's Uzumaki Naruto. Believe it. I am the cream of the ninja elite. In fact, I'm gonna be the next Hokage. So remember my name. I'll be better than the Hokage, and then all the villagers will have to acknowledge my existence at last. You said it yourself. I never had anyone to rein me in, but that's why if I say or do something stupid, you need to slap some sense into me. He's always going on about Hokage this and Hokage that, like a broken record. You put your trust in me to look out for you, and stop you if you were about to do something stupid. Your dream may be crazy, but I don't want it taken away from you forever. Quote, Sakura began to raise her hand, but stopped at the sight of Naruto's shaking hand high in the air. Naruto. He actually. Never underestimate me. He slammed his hand down on the table loudly. I don't quit and I won't run. I'll accept your stupid question. Even if I risk ending up a rookie my whole life, I'll still become Hokage. Even if I can only make it on pure stubbornness, I don't care. I'm not afraid of you. He huffed, glaring at the intimidating proctor. Sasuke smirked. The idiot never even gave Sakura and him a thought, but he certainly did have guts. Good thing too. Because a moron like him needs them. Sakura smiled, unaware that she and Sasuke had just shared the same exact thought. I'll ask you all one last time. This is a decision that could affect the rest of your life. Quit now while you still have the chance. Quote, I never go back on my word. That's my ninja way. Naruto answered, smiling confidently. Ibiki scanned the room full of genin. All of them looking resolutely back at him. 78 were still there. That blonde was an entertaining kid. And an interesting one. His outburst dispelled everyone else's doubts along with his own. It was more than he expected, but there was no point dragging it out. Thanks to him, no one else would quit. He glanced at the other proctors who nodded back in agreement. Good call. So, everyone who's still here. There was a collective gulp of tense anticipation as they all awaited the 10th question. You've just passed the first exam. There were mixed reactions of shock, confusion, and mistrust. Naruto was completely confused. Sasuke was shocked. Sakura, however, was having a strange sense of deja vu. You pass, you guys are the first. Up until now, it was always just dunces who would meekly listen to what I said. A ninja must see through deception. We passed, that was the 10th question, wasn't it? Sakura asked. Off to the side, Kotetsu smirked. She really was quick, that one. And her whole team made it through thanks to the gutsy blonde and his moronic backbone of steel. Ibiki grinned as well. That's correct. Smart kid. Hey. Then why did we have to suffer through the other 9 questions? That was a total waste of our time. The sandy-haired San Kunoichi shouted. There was no waste. Those questions had a purpose, which they've already served. Quote, such as, the San Kunoichi, Tamari, was not one to back down easily. Our goal was to test you skills, at spying. He answered brightly. Our skills at spying, Tamari murmured, caught off guard by his sudden personality change. Woo, we so called it. Shanaru, remember the rules at the beginning. You pass or fail as part of a 3-man cell. With that rule, I pressured you with the fear that anything you did wrong would bring your teammates down with you. Quote, Naruto nodded along sagely. You know, I kind of figured that was it. He didn't notice how Hinata blushed and giggled next to him. Liar. You are so full of it. However, the questions are beyond the level a genin could be expected to handle. So most of you, having reached that same conclusion, only had one way of retaining your points, by cheating. Not us. We beat your test. Not exactly. We sorta failed, given that he was trying to test our information gathering skills, and we didn't gather any information. In other words, we set up the test on the assumption that you'd cheat. Sasuke smirked. He'd been right. And to ensure there would be suitable targets for you to cheat from, we snuck a pair in, 2 chunin who already knew all the answers. His eyes landed on Sakura, who looked completely unfazed by this whole revelation. They'd snuck the 2 in figuring no one would be able to answer the questions on their own. They hadn't accounted for her though. It took me forever to figure out who they were, one applicant stated. Oh yeah, me too, another answered. Naruto twitched. He'd had no idea, he had to save face, quick. Ha ha ha. Yeah, it was obvious. And idiot could tell. Right Hinata? Right. Hinata stuttered, her cheeks tinting red that Naruto was actually initiating conversation with her, and suppressing a giggle at the obvious lie. Sasuke sighed. That fool, it was obvious he had no idea. Of course anyone who cheated in a clumsy or obvious way failed. Ibiki continued, unwrapping his bandana, to reveal horrifying scarring on the top of his bald head. Because there may be circumstances where being caught in an act of espionage can cost more than just your life. You pay in many ways that can be taken from you little by little, time and time again, when many lives hang in the balance. Quote, Sasuke swallowed hard. Burn scars, punctures from where screws were used, long scratch marks, he'd been tortured. Whatever this guy said was coming from life experience. Ibiki retied the bandana. The information you obtain can't be trusted if you can't keep your presence a secret from the enemy. Why? Learn that and learn it well. If you bring back intelligence from a suspect source or a compromised operation, you're doing your enemy's work for them, putting those you serve in danger. That is why we maneuvered you into using your espionage skills to cheat. It was the quickest way of weeding out applicants whose skills aren't yet up to snuff. Like mine. Sakura's eyes dropped to her completed test. Okay. What was the deal with the 10th question? Tamari pressed. Ibiki smiled. The 10th question was the first real test on the exam. Team 7, do you accept this mission? Sakura looked up at Ibiki, the pieces falling into place. You were giving us a mission scenario, and wanted to see if we would accept it or walk away. Quote, confusion rippled across the classroom, while Ibiki's smile widened. Correct again. Sasuke smirked proudly. Of course she was. Once she said it, he started putting the pieces together too. Leave it to Sakura to reach the answer meters faster than anyone else. Wait, what's she mean? Kiba asked, glancing at Sakura. The 10th question was a choice between two options that were both difficult and dangerous. Those who chose to reject were failed and their friends along with them. Those who chose to accept and couldn't answer the question lost any chance of ever trying again. It was a nasty no-win set of options. Ibiki explained. So why did I present them? Let's assume you all make the rank of Chunin. You are assigned to steal a vital enemy document, knowing nothing about the skills, deployment, or military preparedness of your foe. You may have to cross a territory that's been heavily mined and set with traps. Now, do you accept your mission? Or do you reject it rather than place your own life or the lives of your companions in jeopardy? Could a Chunin get away with only taking on the safe jobs? Ibiki's eyes swept around the room, seeing the dawning understanding taking root in everyone's faces. Of course not, he continued. No matter how dangerous the risk, there will always be missions you cannot decline. A ninja must demonstrate valor that inspires those around him, helping all to overcome their fear. His eyes landed on Naruto. This is the talent we value most in the commander of a Chunin cell. Those who can't gamble with their own fate, who would trade today's certain risk for tomorrow's uncertain future, never taking the chance before them, are weakling who make only weak, easy decisions. In my opinion, they don't belong in the ranks of Chunin at all. Sakura's eyes dropped down to her test. Though she showed no other signs of internal strife, her mind was raging. That's me he's talking about. I was going to raise my hand. For Naruto's sake, not our own. Still, I shouldn't be here. I didn't even pass this test, not really. I didn't cheat. If I had, I wouldn't have passed. But we figured out what was going on before anyone else. We analyzed the situation and acted accordingly to the best of our abilities. And we never lost our cool either. That counts for something, damn it. She took a deep breath. Her internal self made good points. Besides, she'd always taken risks. Treating her mother herself was a risk, becoming a ninja while being solely responsible for her mother's health was a risk, coming here had been a risk. I know, trial by fire, I was wrong this time. Now I know. I'll just have to work on it and do better. But grasping something mentally was always easier than emotionally, and though she looked up with determination, her doubts still lingered. By choosing to accept, you answered the almost insoluble 10th question correctly. If you keep that spirit, you can probably conquer all of the many doubts and difficulties you'll face. You've passed the first hurdle. Part 1 of the Chunin selection exam is now concluded. I'll pray you fight the good fight. Quote, yeah, you do that. Go pray. Naruto cheered, thrilled at having actually passed the paper exam. Ibiki chuckled. He truly was an entertaining kid. There was suddenly a crash of broken glass and a whirl of black cloth as the window shattered. Two kunai pinned the black cloth to the ceiling, revealing a banner that said, Newly arrived Second Chief Examining Officer Mitarashi Anko. A woman stood in front of it boldly. She had a curvaceous figure and plum-colored hair clipped in a spiky ponytail. None of you have her in any position to celebrate. I am the second exam proctor, Mitarashi Anko. Time's a Waston people. Let's go. Follow me. She barked. She seems melodramatic, unhinged, insane. Quote, I was gonna go with intense. She kind of reminds me of Naruto. Can't you sense the mood in here? Ibiki sighed. She looked over the room. 78 are still here. Ibiki. You passed 26 teams. Exclamation mark. Obviously, you went too easy on them. This year, we have applicants of exceptional caliber. Ibiki answered evenly. Yeah, right. I'll cut down the number by half before the next test is done. By half. That means there'll be only 13 teams left, and that we've only got a 50% chance of clearing the next round. Ooh, I'm getting excited just thinking about it. I'll explain in detail as soon as we move to our next location, so follow me. Quote, as applicants started pushing up from their chairs, Sakura glanced at the time. It was already 5:15 p.m. Soon, there wouldn't be much daylight left. If they were starting a test this late, it was probably going to be a multi-day thing. With that thought in mind, she quickly tore a corner off her test and jotted a quick note to her sensei, asking if he'd check in on her mom every now and then while she was busy taking this test, folded the small section of paper, and headed for the spiky-haired, bandaged-nosed proctor she'd recognized earlier. "Excuse me," she asked him, tugging gently at the end of his shirt. He turned towards her, a smirk forming on his face when he saw her. "Congrats on passing, Sakura, right?" "That's right, Haruno Sakura. Thank you, although technically I didn't demonstrate what the test was actually looking for." Hagane Katetsu. Katetsu's fine. And no need to gather information if you already have it, or can figure it out on your own. He answered easily, apparently not having an issue with the way Sakura passed the test. "I guess, in the end it didn't matter much anyways, since the only really question was the 10th. She allowed. Katetsu-san, I have a favor to ask, would you please give this to Hitaki Kakashi?" She held up the tiny note she had written. "Not trying to cheat now, are you?" "How? I have no idea what the second exam will be, although my guess is it'll be some sort of practical test, now that you've tested D's in theory. Kakashi-sensei's interference would invalidate anything we do and be grounds for disqualification." "Not bad. Solid reasoning. So, why should I do you this favor?" he asked, smirking down at her. "Fee for medical advice. Congratulations present. Birthday present. Curiosity. Something to do." Sakura shrugged lightly, a smirk of her own making its way towards her lips. "A chance to ask Kakashi-sensei about us cause I know you were impressed by Sasuke-kun earlier, and entertained by Naruto." Quote. Katetsu nodded. "You forgot curiosity about you on that list." "Me? Why be curious about me? Next to Sasuke-kun and Naruto, I'm nothing special. There wasn't a single other person taking the test today that was able to answer those questions, none who figured out the test as fast as you. Very few who remained as calm as you in a high-pressure environment, none who recognized me, none who gave me first aid advice, and none who dared to walk up to one of the proctors after the exam and ask for an unrelated favor. You're more interesting than you think, Sakura." Sakura blinked up at him, wide-eyed. She hadn't expected that. Katetsu smiled down at her and took the note from her fingers. "And you were smart enough to use the right motivation. I am interested in your team and I'd welcome the excuse to question your sensei. You'd better get going. Happy birthday, Sakura. Good luck."